Hello, and thanks for joining us here at the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Michael is still on vacation, but Lou is here. He'll be back in a couple minutes. I can't wait to see that dynamic duo back together next week. I do have to admit, though, I am a little bit suspicious of Mike's vacation. It was right before the Reddit predicted date of first contact, and has lasted throughout the entirety of Blue Origin's venture to space. It occurred to me that maybe he knew something we didn't. Either he was hitching a ride out there with Bezos, or he was hunkering down in a secured location for impending chaos here on Earth. Luckily, none of that seemed to happen. And I have seen Michael chime in on our Discord server, so I know he has not hitched a ride out of here. He will be back next week. And the world of UFO disclosure, remains about the same. But there's still hope that will change. Something in particular gave me a lot of hope today. You may have seen Harvard scientist Avi Loeb on the Singularity Lab recently. He talked a good game about his scientific quest to take UAP seriously. And now, he is following through. Harvard is launching the Galileo project, led by Loeb. The tagline is, "Daring to look through new telescopes." It will answer the question, what if we don't have scientific evidence of UFOs because we have never bothered to look? It'll use several different sensor suites, each for a very specific purpose. One of them will look at Earth's atmosphere, using AI to detect any anomalous movements associated with UFOs here on Earth. Another will look at orbits or objects orbiting Earth. It'll ask the question, are these all natural objects as most of us assume, or is there ET hardware hiding amongst the mess? And finally, one suite will look for interstellar interlopers to our solar system. Objects like Oumuamua. The data and results of all this, they will be open to the public. In my opinion, this is a total game changer. Not only will this do wonders for breaking down the stigmas associated with the scientific study of these issues, it also has a great chance of bringing this topic into focus. For far too long, science has been far-sighted, only looking outwards towards distant planets in their search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, we're putting in lenses to study the topic at closer ranges, the range where experiences are actually reported. Avi Loeb is looking through these lenses and daring the rest of us to follow his lead. And we need as many of these lenses as possible. And, one of our guests today, Graeme Rendall, provides such a lens. He's bringing one of the most compelling cases of UFOs into focus, the Calvine Incident. It's going to be amazing to hear more about that. And thanks for joining us, all of the 75 of you currently in the room. It's really great to see you. Paradigm Shifts, hey Christina, great to see you. As well as Tina, as always, really awesome to see you, and thanks for all you do here. Carl Mullins, William K, Kooky Nick, the whole crew is here, and it's amazing to have you. And today, right now, Lou is a little bit preoccupied at the moment. I think we might just jump right into things and bring in our first guest. Let me pull up a proper introduction, because I do believe I have one. It's Graeme Rendall. He's the author of To the Ends of the Earth and working on his new book, UFOs Before Roswell. He's also a contributor at the Debrief, UAP Media, Shadows of Your Mind magazine, where he just posted a great article about the Calvine Incident. He's also a member of the UAP Media, Graeme Rendall at uapmedia.uk. Welcome, Graeme. How's it going?
Yeah, fine, thank you. It's just very, very hot here. About an hour before I started, I shaved off all my hair. It was so hot.
Yeah, we got it a couple of weeks ago, and now it's over there, huh?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we've had it for a couple of weeks now, and we're sick of it. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit new to me without Lou flying under the without our the esteemed host. But let's talk about the Calvine Incident. I read your amazing article in the Shadows of the Mind magazine. What prompted you to kind of bring this back to the attention, to all of our attention?
Well, I was just looking through the what they call the DEFI files there, the UFO files that were released by the UK's Ministry of Defence, and as you say, it's a very compelling story, and there are still things that people don't know about the case to this day. And I just felt it was nice just to put it all together in one package, but also to link it with a couple of incidents which happened around about the same time in the early 1990s. So the Calvine incident occurred in August 1990. There was another possible either secret aircraft that was off the west coast of America in 1992, and I've also linked those two incidents with a strange tale from September 1994, which happened in Britain. So they're all possibly secret aircraft, but in the case of the Calvine object, it may not be. The jury's still out on that, and that's why people are so interested in this story. There's still so much mystery about it, even though there's quite a lot of information in the files.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a new one to me. I'm fairly new to the whole UAP topic. I kind of started diving in 2017 with a lot of other people. Was this something that contemporaneously in the early 90s, was it reported on, and did it make a stir then? And can you maybe talk about how it was handled then?
Yeah, there was certainly some information at the time about what was going on, not directly at that particular incident in 1990, but information came out in drips and drabs. And of course, the more information that came out, the more people wanted to know. And a story of a triangular object hovering in one place over a particular part of Scotland for like 10 or 15 minutes was going to grab attention. Not least the fact that also that the information was passed to newspapers who didn't do anything with it. And then, of course, it got sort of transferred, the information got transferred into the bowels of the Ministry of Defence, and then, who knows what happened to it. And of course, they were keeping very, very quiet about this for a long time. And it's only with the release of certain UFO files in the late 2000s that some of this actually came to pass, that we found out more about what was happening. And we'll just take it from there. But obviously, the story went, took one step further last year, and that was probably the main impetus for my article in Shadows, was that the Ministry of Defence in the UK basically said that they weren't going to open the remaining part of the file that is still locked until 2072.
So a ways out there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, hey guys.
A long time.
Speaking of a ways out there, welcome, Bill.
Hey guys. Sorry I'm a little late. I had to take care of some things over here. Let's also bring in Daniel, because he was going to join us here in the first hour. What's happening, Daniel? Best looking guy in ufology.
Guys?
It's going well. It's, hanging in there. Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. Sorry if I interrupted here in midstream. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, welcome, and aloha. Another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. As you can see, we've got Graeme Rendall and Daniel and Rather here. So we're going to be talking about the Calvine UFO incident. And I'm sorry, what did I miss?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to doing very poorly, trying to fill into your shoes, and just kind of getting the background of the Calvine incident.
No, I'm sure you're doing fine, Rather. I'm sure.
Yeah, Graeme was telling us about the kind of the impetus for why he started writing about this and bringing it to our attention. And
that's a great question.
Some of the history of this.
Well, I know this is sort of like this, especially the picture of this Calvine UFO incident that legendarily hung above the desk of Nick Pope and then was taken down by his superiors. So it's I'm curious. Yeah, I mean, did we get an answer as to what was the impetus as to why Graeme started writing this?
Yes, the impetus basically came from last year, where the MOD decided to keep the remaining information in the files until 2072.
Got it. Well, that sucks. Well, that 2072, so 50 years essentially.
That's right. Yeah, there are very. I mean, we'll get into the reasons possibly behind that a bit later on after I tell the story.
Yeah,
and of course, I sent you some images before, didn't I, Lou?
Yeah, you did. I'm gonna pull them up right now. But yeah, go ahead. I'll get those images going. But please continue.
So that was the impetus behind why I decided to write that article for Shadows, really. But also it's an interesting story linked with the two incidents in '92 and '94 that I wrote about as well. I mean, basically, the story in a nutshell is the two men were on a hillside near a very, very small hamlet. It's only about 12 or 14 houses and a couple of farms, a place called Calvine in central Scotland. This is quite a remote place, but not so remote that people wouldn't see what was going on. And they were on a hillside, and this is 9 o'clock on a Saturday evening in August 1990. And they saw what they reported to be this large diamond-shaped object hovering for about, I think they said 10 to 15 minutes. It's actually I sent you a copy of the incident report, the handwritten one. So I don't know whether you have that to put up.
I do. So it's just the whole thing is handwritten, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
That was the notes that were taken at the time.
All right, I'm pulling that up right now.
Yeah, so there we go. So this is it. These are taken from the Ministry of Defence's released files to the National Archives in the UK. So that's not something I've written. That's actually that was taken at the time. So you can see there, it's got the date, time, location, and then it says a large diamond-shaped object hovering for about 10 minutes before ascending vertically upwards at high speed. During the sighting, an RAF aircraft believed to be a Harrier made a number of low-level passes for 5 to 6 minutes before disappearing off. And that's their description of what happened, or rather the person taking the information down. So,
and I'm sorry, who was the person taking this information down again?
Well, so it's not entirely clear who this is, but but as far as the chain of events go, the two witnesses reported the sighting to both the Daily Record, which is a Scottish newspaper, but also to a place called RAF Pitravy, which is an RAF Royal Air Force headquarters in central Scotland. So there was two places they reported the sighting to, and the RAF Pitravy would have been their local sort of reporting point in terms of the military to do that. But also they took 6 photographs of this object as well.
Right.
And and according to this note, which you can see there, which you've just put up there, sorry.
Of the last one that I had?
The one you just put up, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
the photographs were given to Pitravy, so to the RAF, but the negs were actually the photographs were also given to, the negatives were given to the Daily Record newspaper. Now, the Daily Record got in touch with the Ministry of Defence for a comment.
Okay.
And of course, the MOD said, well, can we have them, please? And the Daily Record went, yeah, there you go, just passed them straight to them. And seemingly without taking copies, because the Daily Record never ran the story at the time. So what does that tell you, first of all, about what was going on?
Well, it sounds a little organized.
Yeah. So there are such things in the UK as called, or at the time were called D-notices, which are defence notices. And they were basically a voluntary kind of code which said that the MOD could come along to a newspaper if they knew they had some information that was which was sensitive or detrimental to national defence, and say, don't publish it. It wasn't necessarily an order. It was more kind of very polite but very firm request not to publish things. So there's a possibility that was issued and they didn't go through the story. But nobody at the Record actually can say what happened at that time. Most of the people who were involved were dead, and the people who survive don't remember anything. So it's very, very strange. So anyway, information regarding photographs and negatives were passed on to both the RAF and the newspaper.
What's interesting that it says here, the photographic details, 1, confirmation of date and time, and then 2, what sort of camera, 3, what type of lens, 4, what focal length.
Yeah, so that information isn't in the records, I'm afraid. So that must be it must have come up afterwards, but that's not there. So that's unfortunate. Now, you have to think that 9 o'clock at night, and this was a Saturday in August. What were the, if this was some kind of secret aircraft, what was it doing flying around central Scotland on a weekend?
Right. Yeah. In the middle of the day.
Well, no, 9 o'clock at night, but also with an RAF Harrier flying around, because the RAF don't fly weekends.
Oh, am I confused? Am I confused on the time? I thought it was the middle of the day this took place.
No, 9 p.m.
Aha. Okay. So where am I getting that it was a daytime photo?
Well, you're probably going from the artist's recreation of the image, that the one that you see at the start of the article, and that's quite famous now.
Got it.
Having said that, at that latitude at night in August, it's still quite light. I mean, we're at 9:15. We're at 9:15 in Northumberland in England at the moment, and it's practically daylight here. So the photographs could have been taken with a lot of detail. So that's not an issue. It's not like dark, pitch dark or anything.
Right, it's summertime, so the sun's gonna
exactly.
Right on. Okay, that makes sense. Well, we've got another picture. I think this is probably the picture that I'm thinking of.
The line drawing.
Yeah. Is this a drawing?
Yeah. So this was something that was taken by the analysts at in the MOD, and possibly to do with DI-55, who look into these things for these sightings. And what they would have done is, apparently this is a line drawing taken from a negative, not from a photograph, but from a negative.
That's so funny.
So, and what they did this for was to work out the size of the object, apparently.
Got it.
So, so you can see in the image there, you can see this diamond-shaped object with this little kind of tail on the back of it, but also a Harrier aircraft, which is the Harrier jump jet, or the Americans know it as the AV-8. Your Marine Corps use it off the little carriers that they have, the assault carriers. So.
Was that like a standard practice to make line drawings of photo negatives back in the day when negatives were a thing? Like, it seems such a weird thing to do.
It does. I can understand why this would be done if the negative was the only image to go from. So it's the easiest thing. You go from the source image rather than make a photograph of it, because then there's obviously another stage. The negative is the raw image, and it's supposed to be the best thing to go from in terms of information that's there. So you're not losing anything in the developing process. So that's why they would have gone straight to the negative from. And also, the photographs themselves have never appeared. And then also the documentation that comes afterwards just talks about the negatives, never talks about photographs. So there's also a question about whether photographs actually did end up with a Ministry of Defense. And therefore, by the same token, that how did Nick Pope get a picture or an enlargement of the picture on his wall? Because it's wrapped up in a mystery here. That's a real question. Yeah.
Well, I know that's Nick Pope has caught quite a lot of heat for that. What are your thoughts on? I mean, do you think the photo he had was a legitimate one, or do you think it was, sort of like a recreation like this, where it's a line drawing that's blown up?
Well, we've certainly seen the recreation of the artist's impression that I think that was done, and he signed off on it to say it was the most accurate sort of representation of what the photograph he'd seen and had on his wall. In May this year, the Sun newspaper in Britain ran a story which involved Nick Pope, which said that he was saying that there'd been some kind of a monumental row had started because the MOD had actually asked the Americans, "Is this yours?" And of course, that had kicked off a huge argument, apparently. So you can read into that what you will. Nothing more came of that in terms of any acknowledgements about what this might have been. So it could have been, was it some kind of super secret American, spy plane, a reconnaissance aircraft, fighter aircraft, a drone, whatever it was. But that was a Sun's article.
That's a pretty crazy. The MOD's asking the United States, "Is this yours?" And they're like,
yes.
The response to that was, "Nah, that's not us." Right?
No,
I'm assuming.
According to the article in the newspaper, there was actually an argument or a row about it. So not entirely sure what happened after that, but you can imagine if somebody comes to you in America and says, "Is this one of your secret aircraft?" You probably go apeshit if you realize somebody's seen it. So I can understand how that would develop if that's the case. I'm not saying it is, but that's where that story went So.
Do you have any idea of like the history of the like known secret aircrafts, like the SR-71 and stuff like that? Were those, when they were in test flights, were those primarily? I guess my question is, would they ever fly something like that over an allied territory?
Yeah, well,
Really?
there's all sorts of rumors about the F-117 being flown into a particular Scottish base called Machrihanish, which is at the end of a peninsula, and it's very, very remote. Not remote in terms of it's nowhere near anybody, just that it's on the seaward part of a peninsula, which is very thinly inhabited, and you can fly aircraft in over the sea and nobody would see them, especially at night. So there are stories about these things going in and going out again before daybreak, and also about the SAS or the SBS guarding the base and stopping people getting anywhere near, and having a particular hangar where the F-117 was flown in, was taxied into, kept, and then flown out again. So there are stories of these, sort of hitherto secret American aircraft operating over UK airspace before they were unveiled to the general public, even in America.
But is there any cases of military aircraft, U.S. military aircraft, doing tests at 9 o'clock on a Saturday?
Wow.
That's the question.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of questions that came up about why was a Harrier seen flying around low level around this particular glen and around these mountains at 9 on a Saturday night. Some people were saying, well, was it coming back from an air show? And no, because there weren't any air shows that particular weekend. And actually, where the air shows are, where the military airfields are in Scotland, that wouldn't be a direct route back to their base. And they wouldn't fly at night at a weekend in an exercise area. That is actually a low-flying military exercise area, that particular part of Scotland. But unless it was something special, as in a predetermined exercise, you wouldn't have seen aircraft at that level at that time of night. And there's nothing like that in the regs, in the information.
Has anybody kept track of how often military planes go over that area of Calvine?
Do you want to pull up the photograph that I took?
Yeah. Okay, so hold on one sec. Let me get back into my messages here. Which photo is it?
The picture of the tornado, just flying along very low.
Okay. Sorry, give me 1 second here.
Yeah, it should be the first one I sent you. So about
got it. Yeah.
About what? Yeah.
You say tornado, and of course you're talking about a plane, and I'm like, I'm looking for like a twister. Oh man. Okay.
So that is the next valley to Calvine. It's just around the corner. I took this photograph in 2003, and that aircraft is actually below. That aircraft is below me, so it's heading along a mountain valley.
Wow.
So yes, bearing in mind I used to do this kind of thing for a hobby, and I would take pictures where there was no sky in the picture whatsoever. If I got the sky in the picture, I used to bin the picture. It was that simple.
Wow.
So yeah.
Man, you're pretty picky, Graeme. But I can tell you, this is a hell of a photo, man.
Wait, how fast is that going?
That's a killer photo. To get all of this in focus at that height with that speed, that's impressive, buddy.
It's doing about 400 knots, so it's doing about 370 miles an hour. It's down at about it's down anywhere between 500 and maybe 400 feet off the deck, so it's not very high.
Now you took this picture during, I guess, a training exercise or air show type event.
They were exercising with U.S. Marine Corps F-18 Hornets in 2003, so I went there specially, and that's literally just around the corner from Calvine. So back in those days when I used to do this with a few other people up and down the UK, there are certain areas in the UK which are designated low-flying areas, and at certain times of the day through the week, they're actually earmarked that they can go down to 100 feet above the ground, which is really low. 100 feet. I've taken pictures of aircraft at 100 feet.
You're gonna feel that flying over you. I mean, I'm assuming you're gonna feel some kind of gust if it's that low.
But the thing is, though, there are timetables for this sort of thing, not for individual aircraft coming through, just for blocks of time when they open these kind of valleys or whatever you call them, glens, etc. These particular parts of airspace, which are opened up for low flying from 500 feet, which is usually the minimum, down to 100. So they'll go down 250, 100 feet. And they'll open it maybe an hour in the morning and maybe an hour in the afternoon and certain times of day, so that the local people don't get low-flying aircraft flying over. No, just don't get low-flying aircraft flying over the houses and the farms every day, every day, every night, sort of thing.
Right.
So when they're coming over, but the weekends they don't do it. It's only usually Monday to Friday, and they tend to knock off at lunchtime on a Friday anyway. And they did back then. So from that, you can tell that this is quite a strange event to have a Harrier flying around at low level on a Saturday evening at 9 p.m.
Right.
Now, there are times when they have done this, and it's usually when we've been at war with somebody and they've had to kind of, scale up their training. Now, bearing in mind, 2 days before this photograph was taken, the Iraqi army walked into Kuwait. So there was something going on in the world. However, they still weren't building up to that yet. So it's very strange as to why an RAF aircraft, presuming it was an RAF Harrier, bearing in mind the U.S. Marine Corps also operate the same aircraft, and so do the Spanish Navy do as well. I wouldn't say it was one of those aircraft. It was likely to be an RAF one. What was it doing? Why was it flying near there? Was it coincidence? And if so, why was it low level training at that time of night on a Saturday? And if it wasn't, why was it in concert with this object?
In this object. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just asking about the Harrier. Is the Harrier a vertical takeoff jet as well? Is that?
Yes, it is. It burns a lot of. If it does that, it burns a lot of fuel. So it's not something. It's not. It's lovely to see it at an air show doing the hover. And there is a supposed maneuver it can use to get out of the way of a missile by coming to a stop and kind of flying up and down. But I think the pilots don't use that. It's a gimmick for an air show, basically, or for landing on things or taking off vertically. It's useful for that, but they don't usually do it when they're flying around on exercises.
Yeah, I think this is probably the coolest movie jet to ever exist, is the Harrier, because there's so many cool things. I mean, True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
True Lies, yeah, exactly.
Like that is a killer scene at the end of that movie when they're having a fight on top of a Harrier jet. Chris, Dano, you were going to say something. What was your question?
I just thought it was really noteworthy that, scrambling a Harrier jet or Harrier jet leaving the base wherever it's coming from, that's a well-documented thing. That doesn't something that just happens willy-nilly. So if the MOD then went to America, as this article suggested from the newspaper, and they were asking, hey, is this yours? That seems to be pretty clear to me that whatever it was, the MOD had no idea what it was, because they would have known why that jet had gone off in the first place. But also, I think worth mentioning is just, this is 1990, and the object itself is moving in the ways that we're talking about today, where it seems to be just standing still for minutes at a time and then zipping just up. So this is 31 years ago. And I think that's also interesting. So, if this is a project, then we've had this for a really long time. So it's also another factor. It's just weird.
Well, also, just real quick, Christopher Plain says that, is it just me or is Graeme becoming more handsome as he nears retirement? I agree. I think he is. Sorry.
Chris needs to put his glasses on.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that was funny.
No, it's fine. So the other thing is, why is there a Harrier there? Because a Harrier is not an air defense aircraft. It's the type of Harrier that were flying around there, they were ground attack aircraft. That they weren't used to shoot other aircraft down. There was a nearer air base in Scotland called Lucas, where they used to fly interceptor jets from, Tornadoes, like the one that you showed the picture of. That's actually where that aircraft was from. So why weren't they sending something like that out to intercept some kind of strange object if they weren't sure what it was? So there's all these questions that go around this case that nobody's been able to satisfactorily answer. But if you go back to the information I give you, there's an imagery tasking form. I don't know if you've got that there with a handwritten note on it.
Yep, I do. Give me one second.
So you can pop that one up, please.
All right.
Thanks, Lou. So this is another copy from the files, and this is basically what the MOD did as terms of investigating what this object was. So they basically had this line drawing that you showed before, and they were trying to work out which squadron the Harrier was from. So if you just scroll down a bit, please, a little bit further, please. There. So the line says, task already discussed with Ops 4 Squadron. Now, 4 Squadron, RAF, flew Harriers. So they were actually trying to find out which squadron that aircraft was from. Not the strange object, just the Harrier.
So they don't even know where the jet came from. That's
apparently
crazy.
none. Yeah.
That to me that doesn't add up. Like that, I don't buy that.
To Daniel's point, like how many people just for a launch of a Harrier need to know about that? Like the pilot and then the support staff, right? Like that's a lot to keep secret. It seems like.
Yeah.
Like, right. Somebody knows why that jet went out there somewhere.
Well, you'd think so, but actually, apparently, it wasn't just one jet; it was two.
It was two.
Because also in the notes that are in the files, which I haven't given you a copy of, but buried away in the released files, is that there is also a second, much more fainter jet on one of the images. So there was two Harriers flying around. So that makes it even harder to hide, as Daniel was saying there about making sure. Why wouldn't you know one of these things had taken off? So it's all very strange. There is actually a trials unit, or there was at the time, that used to test RAF weaponry before it went into service. It was called the SAOEU, and that was based down the south of England. They used to operate a new version of the Harrier called the GR5, and that could have been, or those could have been the aircraft there, and that would make sense if they were operating in tandem, in concert, about what was some kind of exercise or some kind of test. Then you would expect maybe one of these aircraft from a trials unit to be with this object, but clearly from this, they were scratching around trying to find who was responsible. There were actually other squadrons which were flying a Harrier at the time, but it doesn't appear from that we're actually talking to them. It only mentions one squadron that was flying the Harrier, but there were three others. So it's all very, very weird.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, what I just cannot imagine having these two jets scrambled, having this crazy craft sitting there in a valley at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. I'm assuming a lot of civilians saw this?
Well, this is the thing. Calvine itself, in terms of the village, is only maybe a dozen houses, a couple of farms, in a very wooded valley. And if you weren't looking at the right place at the right time, because I think where this picture was taken was probably about a mile or two away. I've been trying to work out exactly where. It's difficult from that recreation to work out because the place is forested, been cut down, forested again over the years. So it's not entirely easy to work out exactly where it was. Okay. But it's somewhere in the vicinity of a couple of miles. So it's fairly sparsely populated for Scottish standards, but not to the point of where something flying overhead wouldn't have been seen. So, and bearing in mind the main, what they call the A9, which is the main highway through the centre of Scotland to the north of Scotland from what they call the Central Belt, where Edinburgh and Glasgow are, that's quite a busy road. Even at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, there would be, maybe a dozen vehicles going up and down there at that time of night each minute. And they would have seen something flying around, because the Harriers would be flying around the hillside if they were going at low level. They would still be in the valleys like that picture I showed you. So, somebody would have seen something, but nobody's come forward. But here's the other thing. The witnesses have never come forward either.
Ever. That's interesting. Ever. Well, see, because here's my thing, right? If you got all three of these things going on at the same time in this valley on a Saturday night, my question is, were there any reporters on the media aspect of things going, what the hell's going on here? You guys don't know where your jets are? You guys don't know what's launching? You don't know what's in the sky? What's the explanation for this? So nobody ever pressed them that hard, huh?
Well, so here's the next thing. So I mentioned before about the Daily Record, the Scottish newspaper. It's one of the main Scottish newspapers, had been given, the negatives, had been given the information about the report, but they did nothing with it, or at least nothing that we know with it.
Right.
They did contact the MOD, but that's as far as they went. And presumably they didn't do anything else with the story because it never came out. So whether or not they were slapped with a D notice, we'll never know, because those kind of things aren't generally talked about. But it's possible. It's also possible that those Harriers were nothing to do with this object. They just happened to be in the area. But that's the question. Well, what were they doing in the area at the time? Because again, it's outside, exercise areas. It's the wrong time of day. So there's a whole load of questions that go with this. But no reporters. Nothing seems to be followed through. There have been half-assed kind of requests for for the witnesses to come forward over the years, but nothing to the point of where they have done. And there could be reasons why, and I say in my article that they could be dead. That's
I was just about to ask before we do our reset. Like, do you think these folks are still even alive? This was 1990. Let's say if they were
31 years,
yeah, if they were even 30 years old, they would be almost 60.
But there could be other reasons. There could be other reasons why they haven't come forward. It could be that they work for. They could have like a sensitive job, or or they don't want the publicity, sort of thing, or they maybe regret coming forward. Who knows? There's a whole list of things that anybody could come up between the four of us. I'm sure we could come up with a whole list of reasons why somebody might not want to come forward for something.
For sure.
So is the only reason we know about this because of the MOD told us about it, specifically Nick Pope?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And that's in terms of all the files and in terms of all that stuff I've just shown you there. And there are other little bits and pieces in the MOD files. There's not a lot more, to be honest, but there is some. But once,
I'm disappointed with the Daily Record, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I am as well. Okay.
Go reset the room. We'll talk.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, let me reset the room because there is a couple of questions coming in here about where's my tie. Where's the tie, Lou? I couldn't do, guys. I didn't have time to do laundry. There was no tie today. I'm sorry. It's been a hectic week. So no tie for me. It's casual Friday, definitely for me. I had to whip out one of the golf shirts. We are definitely not sponsored by Nikki. But okay, so let's reset the room. So in case you don't know, we're talking about the Calvine UFO incident in Scotland. We've got Graeme Rendall here, who is an aviation expert. I'll go ahead and just read his bio that I wrote. He's the author to The Ends of the Earth and working on a new book, UFOs Before Roswell, and is a contributor at the Debrief, UAP Media, UK, and Shadows of Your Mind magazine. And shout out to Shadows of Your Mind magazine. They're just an amazing group of guys. I love those guys over there. They've put out a free magazine every month. Is it every other month?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a killer magazine. So definitely go check it out. Links are in the description below. And also we've got a fellow actor here. By the way, we got to sit down and talk about what we've been working on lately. I've got a couple auditions this weekend. So this is Daniel Miller. He's an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has now led him to the UAP topic, where as a political junkie, he focuses on the movement and efforts within the United States government and scientific community. So welcome, Daniel. And then, of course, we've got the one and only lovable, huggable, beautiful smile, Rather Be Squidding, who's a UFO enthusiast and researcher. His YouTube channel, Rather Be Squidding, focuses on the cutting-edge science, technology, and UAP news. He just did a really cool video on tiny universes, creating them. It was a really fun video. What are we working on next, Rather?
Maybe Roswell. I think I've kind of tried to advance my alien poop theory.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we had a cool. We're gonna have another follow-up discussion about the Roswell show that came out on Discovery Plus. Have you had a chance to check that out, Graeme?
No, I haven't yet. I watched the first one.
Yeah. What did you think of the first one?
I was a bit hot and cold with it. I just thought some of it was a bit, and then some of it was good, and some of it was a bit kind of, really?
I thought it was fun. I'm trying to get there was a professor on there who I think helped develop the AI from the University of Dartmouth. So I reached out to him. I'd love to get him on the show and just ask him some more questions about the AI and how it, how they made it. I think it's a fair question. Okay, so before we get back into the Calvine UFO incident, don't forget, you guys, there's a lot of great ways to support this show. We are a public access channel. We are supported by viewers like you. We've got the super chats that are always a great way to do it. We've got Artemis, one of our, what do they call them, brother?
Amazing person?
No, other than amazing person, a moderator. Sorry. Scrambled eggs up here. We've got moderator Artemis Prime, as I like to call her. She just put up the Patreon link. Patreon is a great way to support the show monthly, anywhere from $1 to $500,000 if you've got the guts. It's a lot of fun. But either way, whether you're a Patreon supporter or not, you still get the same access to the same show. Everybody gets to enjoy everything at the same time, which is Monday through Friday right here. And also, I've been getting a lot of questions about Mike. Mike is not fired. Mike is definitely still part of the show. He's just on vacation. Mike's going to be back Monday. We got new Singularity Labs coming Tuesday and Thursday, so don't freak out. Mike hasn't gone anywhere. It's still same old crew. We just got a few new faces here to help me through this week, and then next week we're going to get back to schedule, back with the ties. I promise the ties are coming back. And also, I don't know if we'll have it by next week, but merch is so close to being done. We just finished the poster for the Big Phone Home 2, which, by the way, Graeme, would you like to come to the Big Phone Home 2?
Oh, if you're inviting me, I'd love to.
Of course,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. This is the invite officially.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll
and
be there.
Daniel, same invite for you, buddy. So if you want to come hang out with us, we're gonna
I'm
be
there.
doing the Big Phone Home 2 for 3 days. Have not released the dates yet, but I promise you, a lot of you should be off. Yeah, what do you think? Is that too many days, Graeme? You said 3. You whispered to yourself 3 days. It's going to be
I'm fine.
essentially a 24-hour Big Phone Home spread out over 3 days.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. But with that out of the way, just want to thank you guys for all the support and everything that you guys have been sending us and showering us with this week. We finally got a doctor's appointment for Michelle today, so that'll be fun, and hopefully get her some good meds so she's not in so much pain. But she's doing better than she was on Monday, and just wanted to give you guys a quick update because I know a lot of you guys have been asking, so I appreciate it. Okay, so the one thing that I thought about, Graeme, and I don't know how prevalent this is because I know we hear about this a lot, especially after like a Roswell. And by the way, to the 169 of you guys watching live, do us the favor, especially if you can't support financially, which is totally okay. Share, subscribe, like, and ring that bell. That way you guys don't miss a second of action on this channel or on the Singularity Lab Tuesdays and Thursdays. So is this prevalent in the UK where you get the door knocking, the guys in the suits going, okay, tell us what you saw. You're not allowed to talk about this ever again. You know, could that also be a reason as to maybe we haven't heard anything from these witnesses? I would assume over 30 years somebody would have come out by now, no?
It's entirely possible. There have been stories in the past of anonymous officials, sometimes in RAF uniform, turning up at witnesses' addresses and asking them questions, and then occasionally saying things afterwards like, you shouldn't be telling people about this anymore, just don't mention it. So there have been stories in the past, but who knows with this one, because nothing's come out about that. The witnesses clearly haven't come forward. So have the MOD or somebody else put the frighteners on them? It's possible, but it's equally possible they just don't want the publicity or they've died. But in terms of the MOD routinely going round and warning witnesses off, I don't think they do. If you look at the other files in the released sections that have gone to the National Archives, and there are quite a lot of them now, spanning over quite a lot of years, they're mostly just members of the public seeing strange lights in the sky. Right. And they don't routinely send people out to interview these witnesses. They'll just take statements either over the phone or by letter, or but it'll probably by email now. But then again, they've closed the so-called UFO desk anyway. They did that in 2009. So they don't have that avenue anymore. No doubt information still gets to them in different ways, but they don't have that public-facing kind of, the Nick Pope desk where you could ring and get through to somebody and give them the information. But no, they probably don't go around warning people off, routinely. There could, of course, be a reason why they might want to do that in certain cases, but that's going down a kind of conspiracy theory road, which I want to keep away from that kind of rabbit hole.
Could it be? No, and that's why I love you, man. Honestly, that's why your answer to the question was so great. Thank you, Carl Vibe, for the $9.99 donation. Excited for the Big Phone Home question. Does the UK have a remote viewing program or psychic spies secret program like the Stargate in America? And by the way, I think I missed another $1.99 super, or $4.99. Sorry, April. I missed this. We'll get back to that question in a second. April says, sorry, it's not much, but hopefully, you get April. Honestly, every dollar counts. Everything you guys send is amazing, and thank you, Chris Mullins, for the $1.99 super sticker. You guys are insanely wonderful. This is a pretty cool question from Carl Vibe. But real quick, could it be just that these guys in suits are just a lot friendlier than American suits?
Oh, yeah.
They come in, they're like, can we come in, have some tea, talk about this? Well, if you have any other questions, here's my card. It's not as intimidating, it's a little friendlier, so maybe they don't have the gravitas of, say, an American getting paid a visit.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine me turning up at your house and trying to put the frighteners on you? You'd laugh, wouldn't you?
Oh my God! I'm just trying to picture you being intimidating.
There you
Please
go.
don't take that offensively.
No, it's not. No,
Like
seriously.
Graeme Rendall just sitting there in the doorway going like this. Oh my God! I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's get to Carl Vibe's question, because Carl had a killer show the other day. I'm forgetting the name of the doctor, but it was a remote viewing professor, doctor. Carl, if you could do me a favor, put the link to that show in the chat so people could go check it out after they're done here. It was a really wonderful discussion. But yeah, so outside of the big phone home, do you think the UK, or have you heard of the UK having a remote viewing program or secret, psychic spies program like the US?
I'm afraid I haven't. If it has been, then it might have been on the back of the ones that you were doing, back in the day. So they might have hitched a ride on some program that the Americans were carrying out. But no, I've never heard of anything personally. That's not to say it hasn't happened. My colleague Dave Partridge at UAP Media UK might have a bit more information on that, but personally I don't. And while we're on the subject as well, everybody at UAP Media UK wishes Michelle well.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
So,
you guys are gems over there. I really appreciate it. There's the link, you guys. Dr. Paul Smith with Carl Vibe. Go check it out. It's a fascinating conversation. We also got another $1.99 donation for Warlock. Thank you so much. Honestly, you guys, the love is felt tremendously.
Well, I
Yeah,
kind of
go
wanted
for
to
it, Rob.
dovetail on Carl Vibe's question there a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
we all know about USA having, secret technology and secret, groups that, build crazy stuff. Does that same stuff happen in the UK as well? Are there secret groups building, these secret access programs and kind of similar?
Yeah,
secret
is there?
technology over
I
there?
guess. Well, here, or is there an equivalent of, say, the Department of Energy? Right. I guess would that sort of be a way of asking your question? Rather, is there something like that in the UK?
we don't necessarily have that kind of level of complex kind of secret agencies or groups that things can be hidden away in very, very remote areas or behind closed doors in that kind of way. We're a very small country, for one thing, and our institutions are quite old. They're quite protective of what they do. Having said that, we have like companies like British Aerospace, who BAE Systems as they're called now, which have developed our kind of drone technology. The kind of unmanned aerial vehicles that we have. So if anywhere is going to be producing them, it's going to be the likes of them or companies who are kind of on the same level of producing things for the MOD. Back in the day when I used to take those kind of pictures, about 15 years ago, the pictures that you showed before, I used to also go to a local bombing range. It was more an electronic warfare range, but it was a bombing range to watch aircraft dropping live bombs. And I used to knock around with somebody then who was, let's say, part of a certain establishment in the UK, who lived near a base where they used to operate some of these secret drones from. And he used to say there was all sorts of weird and wonderful things happening at night. And that just tallied with a lot of other stories I was hearing from other aircraft enthusiasts in the UK at the time. We all got to hear about various rumours, none of which we could prove, but just it all added up to a kind of narrative. So I don't doubt that the British, have built things over the years that not many people are aware of. But we don't do it on the same scale, nor the same kind of success, I think, than you guys do. Because you have the resources, you have the facilities, you have these huge places where, in the middle of nowhere, where you can hide all this gear and you can operate it to your heart's content and nobody will see it.
And then I guess getting back to the friendly British men in black, when you were taking these, awesome photos of military technology, I take it you never got visited by them.
No. We used to have message boards where we could put them on, and pilots would see them. I once took a picture that a pilot on his first solo NavX had seen him in the aircraft, and he asked me for a copy of it. So no,
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, no, nobody used to work. In fact, we used to occasionally, some of us used to get phone calls saying, if you're on a certain hill at a certain time at a certain day, I might be coming past. Can you get a picture?
Oh my gosh.
We get stuff like that occasionally. So it was a crazy time. My knees are a bit knackered nowadays. I can't really go running up and down hills and mountainsides anymore, but I still give it a go occasionally. But we don't have the traffic anymore to do that. So
I didn't know. I mean, look, I knew you were an aviation expert. That I knew, but I didn't know you were such a killer photographer, man. Like that is some good stuff. And by the way, I'm getting. I'm going to put up a new poll here real quick. Let me just take a look at I'm really bad at always reading the results of our polls. And by the way, our polls, for the most part, are just pretty silly. There's no real meaning to them. So if you're confused by the polls, we're just having fun. So the poll question was, which one best describes you? Calvine, bovine, or grapevine? And so we got 49% of the audience said grapevine, 19% said bovine, and 32% said Calvine. Okay, so that's fun. But we're going to put up a new poll, and the new poll is going to be, do you guys want a sneak peek of the Big Phone Home posters? With an S. So I'm going to put that up, and if you guys have any other questions for Graeme, go ahead and knock them out now while I put this poll up if you can, guys.
Yeah, I guess, the burning question in my mind is, do you think that it's going to take till 2070 or whatever that official date is to learn more about this?
I don't think so. I think there'll be like some kind of something will happen between now and then that I think more information might come out one way or another. I can't say what that is. Obviously, I've got no particular idea, but I've just got like kind of gut feeling that we haven't heard the end of this story. I know there are other people. Dr. David Clark, who you may be aware of, he's been on Micah Hanks's program. He's been on Andy McGrillen's That UFO podcast. He's a lecturer and journalist at Sheffield University in the UK. Now he is instrumental in actually going through these released archives for the National Archives, the UFO files. So he knows a lot about what's in those, and he's quite interested in this story as well. And I did actually talk to him when I prepared the article. And he believes that the information that's in the files that's just being withheld is just the names and addresses of the witnesses. That's all he thinks that's in there. Now, other people think it's the photographs, and some other people think there's other information. I don't know what that is or what that might be. So it's a whole range of kind of things that might be or might not be in those files.
Yeah, so even the names and addresses would be amazing, right? Even if the people are dead, you can talk to their family, right?
Yeah, it might sort of work out a few things in terms of what kind of things did they see, or something they might have told somebody about what they saw, so you might get a bit more information. Because normally with these kind of witness cases, you have the witnesses that other people, the likes of us, can talk to, and we can either write to them or email them or whatever, and just or talk to them on Twitter and say, what did you really see? And then you get a bit more information, and you can tease other bits that they might not have told the MOD at the time. I'm afraid we've been denied that because they've just never come forward.
Do you think the original witnesses were able to keep the negatives and the photos that they took, or do you think those were collected and stored away?
Well, the way it worked back in those days, people did genuinely just hand things over to newspapers, in the expectation that they would get the story, it would be run, and sometimes there was occasionally a financial reward for running stories. Our tabloid newspapers would pay people for stories, and they still do today. So there can be a monetary aspect to things like that, or it might be just an altruistic kind of move where they just they give the information over. But I suspect they didn't retain anything. Wow. They talk about these 6 images on the negatives, and of course they talk about photographs. So it's a bit unclear as to what they actually received in terms of the MOD.
Photography worked a lot different back in the 90s, right? Like,
certainly did, yeah.
Is there any?
It was called developing film, an hour-long wait until you got to see your photo.
Hey, not even an hour.
Yeah.
In the UK, what you used to do was you used to get these little envelopes that used to get a mail order, and you put the canister of film in, and you used to send it by post to somewhere, and then you'd wait a week or two, and then they would send them back to you.
That was in 1990?
That's the way that most of us used to do it. It was cheaper than taking it to the local chemist, or to get them done there. So that's how we used to do them.
Here in the States, it was
1 hour developing.
Well, yeah, you would just take the roll and you drive to like a Eckerd Drugs or a CVS, something equivalent to like that, and they would have a photo center in there. You just pop your thing into the photo center, and then you'd have to wait an hour, and then in an hour you get your. Sometimes if you were right there on time, they'd still be warm.
Well,
we had that here, but it was really expensive. That was all I'm saying.
Got it.
Well, and is that process destructive to the negatives, or so? I guess could the people who took these photos, could they have developed them and then sent off the negatives? Like, could there be some developed photos potentially?
Well, exactly. You do. Also, that's what you do to get the image. You get the photograph from the negative, but the negative is the thing that has the most information on it in terms of a photograph. So you can blow things, you can do all the rest of it, but the negatives are the true image.
But if you did develop it, though, the negatives are not destroyed. You could develop them many times.
Oh no, you can. That's why you keep them. Yeah. So when you got your pictures back from the drugstore, as you say, you used to get the roll of negatives with it, and you kept them because if you wanted enlargements or you wanted more copies, you could take them back to the shop and get them done. So yeah, that's why you had those for. So that's how it worked. But it's still not clear what happened to all this information. So the last bit of information I sent you, Lou, was the what they called the lines to take. Yeah.
Yep.
So
let me pull it
they
up.
also,
you can talk
yeah,
about.
they also, yeah, that's fine. They also said that at the time that they basically don't have the negatives anymore or the photographs. That's one thing that's in the archives, that the MOD claim that you don't have anything left, that it was either passed back to they were either destroyed or they were passed back to the paper. So, who knows what's happened. Now, the MOD were clearly expecting newspaper interest with this case when the story broke, because they were expecting the Daily Record to go public with this, because at the same time they came out with this. And this is a memo that was actually in the archives, written at the time, and it's in case they have to field inquiries, and they've got this defensive lines to take, and it says they've looked at the photographs. They might mean negatives there because that's a catch-all word, but no definite conclusions reached regarding the large diamond-shaped object. They know the aircraft's a Harrier. Well, that's easy because I can tell it's a Harrier. They don't have any records of Harriers operating over Calvine at the date on the time. Well, yeah, because nobody ever owned up to it. So what the heck? Which Harrier was it? Where was it from? Were the witnesses telling the truth? I suppose you have to go back to that as well. Yeah. But then again, it's on the image, so that's where the line drawing comes from. So there was one there, presumably. If that's where they took it at the time they took it from, that's the next thing, of course. And then the last thing it says is there were no other reports about kind of weird sightings at the time or around about that time that day. And then there's this next bit further down where it says if pressed. So that's clearly if the newspapers wouldn't take no for an answer.
Right.
So this is when they got into this bit where they say, yeah, well, we've looked at them, we've sent them off to experts, and by the staff in the relevant departments. What they're talking about there is somewhere called JARIC, which was a joint air reconnaissance kind of intelligence center, which looked at these kind of images to try and work out what was going on. It was like an image analysis department. And then the last thing, which is basically a real kind of brush off, it just says, are there other reports of UFOs in Scotland? No. Reports in Scotland are rare. Yeah, right. Oh, also, they're just as common as anywhere else.
They really wrote that too. Look at that.
They really
wrote that. They're like, UFO reports in Scotland are rare. That's if you're press. Can you imagine if you are a reporter and you're pressing somebody on this, and their response is, "Well, UFO reports in Scotland are rare."
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not even an answer.
That's not even an answer. Okay, so why don't we look into it a little more? What say you?
I just can't believe that they literally, the black and white, say, yeah, there were Harriers in the picture. Also, we don't have records of Harriers there. So it's like, great. So you're just lying, or you're admitting that you can't keep track of your multi-million-dollar jets. Like, that just seems so ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
well,
I just
31 years later, the UAP task force report comes out with something saying, yeah, this thing's flying around, but we don't know what they are. Right. So nothing has changed, has it, in terms of your side of the Atlantic to ours? Nobody knows what's going on, or if they do, they're not saying anything. So
okay, so I guess the last, because we're getting into the last hour here, what do you think? Oh God, it's a loaded question. Okay, what do you think about Nick Pope then? I mean, do you think this is a story that's being? Because it seems like it came from one person, right? Like this whole incident. So
about the picture anyway.
yeah. So are we? How do we feel about Nick Pope's sort of telling of this story? I know that for some reason he's a lightning rod over there in the UK. A lot of folks don't like him for some reason. I'm not really sure what happened. Maybe you could shed a little light on that.
So there are some people in the UK who believe that his role was only to take reports, and that in terms of because he says basically that he effectively ran the UFO desk. I'm paraphrasing. He ran the UFO desk. He investigated the cases. Now, other people are at odds with that statement because they believe that all he did was just take phone calls, take information down, and passed it to other people who did the investigations. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know. However, looking at some of the information, it's a bit blurred, and it may be a case that he exaggerated his role in terms of what he says he did. But that's not to take away with what he actually brought to this subject in the years after he left the MOD. You know, that can't be lightly dismissed. But it may be just that he's embellished a bit about what he's done. But then again, I don't know the gentleman. I've never had the pleasure of speaking to him, so I can't really say.
Yeah. Well, I could say, even if he was just the guy who passed along the information, that's still a hell of a seat to sit in.
Oh, of course.
I can't, as I'm thinking of this, I don't think I've ever heard, and I don't think I can't recall Nick Pope ever being in a field investigating anything. I've seen the only time I've seen that guy is in front of a desk or in a very comfortable place. When I think of field investigator, I don't think of Nick Pope.
Yeah, in terms of going out into the field, like J. Allen Hynek and investigating for Blue Book, didn't do that kind of thing. He sat at a desk in an office in Whitehall in the Ministry of Defence. He was a civilian employee. He wasn't military. So he didn't go out in the field. He probably did ring RAF bases, RAF radar stations, and did talk to people. So in terms of investigations, I guess that does count as part of an investigation. But going with a Geiger counter into a field somewhere in Wiltshire or Cornwall or in Scotland, didn't do that kind of thing, I believe, unless, of course, he has evidence that he can say otherwise. He was taking information and passing on, and then, of course, formulating the responses to the public, after they'd received information. So he'd had that role as well. But he was only in post the year after Calvine. He wasn't in the job when this particular incident took place. He started, I believe, in 1991.
Okay. Well, there you go, man. Well, thank you so much, Graeme, for the history
You're welcome.
lesson on the Calvine incident. Because I read your article, but I know there was a lot of nuances and things that I wanted to know more about, and I knew you were going to fill those in beautifully. So thank you. If you guys are just checking in now, we just got a really awesome, fun guest that's going to join us here for at least a few minutes. But before I introduce who's coming up, I just want to say, we introduce everyone who's here. We've got Graeme Rendall, who is the author of To the Ends of the Earth and working on a new book called UFOs Before Roswell, and is a contributor at the Debrief, UAP Media UK, Shadows of Your Mind magazine, and is a member of the UAP Media UK group. So this is Graeme Rendall. Thank you so much for being here. And then, of course, we've got Daniel Miller, who's an actor based out of the same town I'm in, Los Angeles. He's a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has now led him to the UAP topic, where, as a political junkie, he focuses on the movement and efforts within the United States. And by the way, I'm also a political junkie, and I don't know about you, but I think this is the best topic to talk politics without pissing anybody off, right?
I can't tell you how many people I've been able to talk to about this that I otherwise would never be able to talk to, because there would instantly just be a boop, we're not talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I love about topics.
Totally true.
And then, of course, we've got our regular co-host, producer, information getter, and man with $1 million smile, Mr. Ratherby Squidding, UFO enthusiast, researcher. His YouTube channel, Ratherby Squidding, focuses on the cutting edge science, technology, and UAP news. Real quick, everybody, check out the Patreon. It's a great way to support the show. We are a public access channel. We are supported by viewers like you. Every dollar helps, so definitely consider doing that. We've also got the super chats open, which you guys have been amazing with. Thank you so much. I see we got Mike, who's from the Singularity Lab, in the chat. What's going on? I thought you weren't available today. You might get fired. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can't fire Mike. I don't pay him. So with all of that out of the way, let's see what the poll is. Okay, the poll's looking like a hard yes. We've got a poll. We'll do the results toward the end of the show, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek of the poster. It looks like we're definitely going to get a sneak peek of the posters. We've got two. So the poll question is sneak peek for the Big Phone Home 2 poster. 78% so far have said yes. 12% have said no, and 11%, God bless you, said please stop. So hilarious. I love it. Okay, so without further ado, we've got a really fun last second addition to our show today. I was just threw him the link. I was like, John, if you're available and you want to come in and hang out with us and talk about a near miss with NASA and the Space Force, please come on. And he was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And here he is, without further ado, Mr. John Greenwald of the Black Vault. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I thought this was a Pentagon briefing, so I think I stumbled into the wrong room, but
you definitely stumbled into the wrong room. This is not a skiff, unfortunately. Everyone is going to know what's been said here.
Everybody's wondered what's behind the door. That's the skiff.
That's the skiff, exactly. How are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. No, I'm glad it worked out. I need the break anyway, man. It's been a busy last.
I see that, Greenwald. The last 25. You went 25 years. I thought you were gonna say days. You went decades. I love it.
I like being able to relax. So when you threw the invite out there, I'm like, yes. I mean, wait, are you sure? Because I felt bad. I was intruding. And
no, man, never intruding on this show, John. We will welcome you with open arms anytime you want to be here, because you're a wealth of information. And real quick, before we get to your article, man, I don't know why. I can't figure this out. Why we've got a section of UFO Twitter that you upset. If there's anyone on the list of people to be upset with about UAP data and information, John Greenwald Jr. should be the last. He shouldn't make the list, period. But if he did make the list, he should be dead last on your list of people who annoy you when it comes to getting more data on the stuff that we all want to know more about.
Some people are annoyed by the truth, I think.
Well, you know what? I laugh about it because you're absolutely right. There is a section out there, and I think the section has kind of dwindled in the last year and a half. I hope anyway. Who knows? But in the same respect, you know what? I do understand it, and it's just my approach. I think, again, joking aside, I think that people sometimes don't want the tough questions asked, and I think that gets me in trouble sometimes, because I'm not afraid to ask them. Right. And I think a lot of those that are new, and this is not against anybody who's new in the last couple of years, but I think that the majority of people that do hate me are from that group because they've seen me ask the tough questions to, let's say, a Luis Elizondo or about to the stars. And those tough questions, I think some people fear it's going to rock the boat. And I think that they rather just go, hey, whoa, stop rocking the boat. Let's just see where it goes. And for me, I gotta get the answers. You know, sometimes questions have good answers, sometimes they remain unanswered. But I think that's the heat.
What's the quote?
The boat needs to be tipped over.
Yeah, the boat needs to be tipped over. That's a great point.
But if it's a strong boat, nothing I do will tip it. And I think that really has been a message that I've always wanted to convey. If we're hearing the truth, nothing I ask or say or even try to do will tip that boat over.
Right.
It's strange why when people ask for the truth, they're always asking for the truth, and then when you're asking for the truth yourself, they don't like it. So what? Right. How does that work?
It can't be the truth. Yeah.
Right.
And I run into that a lot too, where sometimes you inadvertently knock the ice cream off of a kid's ice cream cone, and they think you're the devil, and it's like, well, wait a minute, no, hold on,
there was a razor blade in that ice cream.
Yeah, well, now we're getting a bit,
well, I'm just saying, if you're gonna slap an ice cream cone, if you're gonna slap an ice cream cone out of a kid's hand, it's probably because there's a razor blade in the ice cream.
Well, yes. Okay. Now that I hear the full analogy, fine. I'll accept. I'm saving the kids. It's all for the children.
It's all for the children. It's all for
That's
the kids.
right. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's hard to ask those questions because sometimes the answers you get are not always what people want to hear. And I think that, and this doesn't go true for everybody, but I think that there are a group of people out there, they want to hear what they want to hear and nothing more. And if you go against that, then you're on the other side, and it's us versus them, and it's a war, and it's a battle, and it shouldn't be like that. I mean, I really don't like that part of this whole debate, because it has turned into a very territorial line in the sand. You're either with me or against me, and that's it. And it shouldn't be like that. It's not like that for everybody, though. I want to stress that.
Well, I want to stress that we're on the same side here, folks. Like, we're all trying to get to the same truth. Is my picture's gone out?
Your video's gone.
Interesting. Okay, well, give me a
You're
second.
a white circle.
Well, since you can still hear my audio.
An orb.
I do have, while you answer this, I'll see if I can get an orb. There's an orb on our show, you guys. That's it. We solved it. What I was going to ask is, before we get to your article, what is the most shit you've ever caught for a truth that you've unveiled, or what you think is truth or accurate? What is the thing that really rubbed the community the most the wrong way, if you can remember?
I don't want this to come off as I'm patting myself on the back here, because it's not like that, but I'm afraid that it's going to come out that way. The most heat I think that I've ever gotten was when I said those videos were not cleared for public release. And where I fear that this is like, again, I don't want it to come off the wrong way. That is ultimately what happened, but not based on what the Pentagon told me. The evidence proved it. And it took years to get all of that evidence. And I said there is no indicator that the FLIR, the gimbal, and the Go Fast videos were cleared for public release. And people got vicious, and I mean vicious. That was probably the root of hatred towards me from the people that continue to do so. Some of those people I actually call friends now, and we're fine, and we chat, and I think they realize where I come from. They've understood my approach, and they may not always agree with it, but we found common ground. But there's still a small group of people that just absolutely hate me. And I think the root is honestly, I think it's that story, because that questioned Luis Elizondo's story, that questioned To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, and the entire narrative. And there was no proof that those three videos were supposed to be out. Then the Pentagon supported that. Then the evidence supported it. And then the Air Force Office of Special Investigations supported that with an investigation that they did. In the end, and people now are like, well, let's not talk about that anymore. It's totally fine. Christopher Mellon has come out and said rules were bent. And so essentially he's saying those were not cleared for public release. So that was the root, I think, of that hatred, because I did speak up. That's a concern to me, because there was an entire narrative spun about that. And when you dig in and you look at the documents, you look at the evidence, you look at everything as a whole, that's where I think that hatred was rooted and hasn't gone away for some. And you can still see some people that just do like literal rage tweet threads about either me or a live stream or an interview I did with, like, let's say Jimmy Church or whatever. And they're out there and they're still pissed off. Like, and I've had them blocked for like a year and a half because of reasons like this. And yet they're still doing it. So there's something about that I think really irks some people, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, man, it is unfortunate. It kind of bums me out, because I'm just like, who can get mad at this guy? Like,
it's easy. Trust me.
All of this work. No, I'm sure your wife has got some stories, but I mean, that's your wife. I'm sure your kids have had moments, but that's your kid. I'm saying someone who's never met you, someone who strictly just knows you through the work that you're putting out, how you can get upset by the work that you've put in. Like 5 million documents are available that would have never been available if it weren't for you. Like, not to toot your own horn, but beep beep. You know,
Hey,
like it's
toot away. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
Flattery
like,
gets you
it's-
everywhere. Keep
dude.
going.
It's so damn important, man, and I just love highlighting that. But yeah, that was because over the last week here, there have been a lot of back and forth. And I'm all about, hey, can we stop going back and forth on Twitter? Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Come on my show. Or if you've got a show, have this person on your show and let's have a discussion. Because I have a feeling, just like with politics or with religion or with any other, subject matter you want to put on the table, if you're doing it through 180 characters, man, you guys are not going to come to any conclusion or any sort of understanding of each other. Whereas as if you have the conversation, okay, sure, if you walk away from a conversation going, I'm never talking to that SOB again, you've at least had the conversation and you can base your opinion off of, oh, I've interacted with this person. But I don't count text messaging somebody over thousands of miles, of communication. I just call that talking past each other in most cases. But like, I would love to get you and say a Joe Mergia on my show to talk shit out. Like, it doesn't make any sense that you guys, Joe's a very passionate person. I love Joe. He's a good dude. But he's got a lot of passion, and when things don't jive with that passion, it comes off sometimes as a little aggressive, and I'm sure we're all guilty of this. He's not the only one. I've been guilty of this as well, so this is not a knock on anybody. I love Joe. He's been on the show many times, but I would love for you guys to talk, because I think you both are brilliant people in this field. Joe, anytime there's an interview, he's giving you the rundown of everything that's said, which is so valuable. And then you've got, on the flip side of that, you doing FOIA requests day in and day out, which is so valuable. I just don't know how these streams are not allowed to cross, and maybe one day we'll figure it out. I'm not asking to do that now, but I think both you guys are valuable. I try to take the positive out of everything that I see, and I think there's a lot of I have a feeling that if you and Joe got in a room and talked together for a couple hours, you wouldn't have this animosity toward each other. There wouldn't be this unfollowing or following of one or the other, I don't know if animosity is the right word.
The first two words I would say is movie script, and I think that would be the end of the story. That might be somewhat of an inside joke, but that would tie into the Wilson Davis stuff. But the thing with me really quickly is I will have a conversation with anybody, and I don't expect you to have watched every video on my channel, but I had a conversation with somebody who I really did not agree with, but gave him his shot. His name is Anthony Bergalia, and he had come out with this story about the Pentagon admitting to UFO debris, and it was just this big debacle, which I felt was completely, with evidence, rebuttable, and so I invited him on the show, and it was absolute train wreck of an interview. I mean, it was absolutely
oh man, I kind of want to go watch that now. That's a great plug for the episode.
No, it really honestly, it was like standing on a street corner watching the most intense car accident in slow motion, and you just can't turn away, and I let it go. I let him just and it was challenging, but I just let him go at me and take personal shots and just let him go. And I mean, I think my tongue was bleeding because I had to bite it throughout the whole interview, wanting to rebut that. But regardless, my whole point is I'll talk to anybody. I got no problems with it. And I think what's lacking for some out there, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but there are certain times that people get in their mindset, and that's it. And if you come at them with anything else that goes against that, that's like a challenge, and they consider it an insult, and it shouldn't be like that. We should have those conversations, should with a capital S. Absolutely, you're 100% right. Sadly, though, it falls short, with some people in this field. I call it the I want to believe syndrome. I truly believe that that's a real deal, and as much as I say it lightheartedly, I think it's serious. And for me, that syndrome is you sacrifice all logic, all scientific method, all forms of investigation. You sacrifice all of that in exchange for something that you want to believe. And so
it's hard.
anything that,
it's
that
hard
comes your,
sometimes, though, right,
it's hard
John?
to separate
especially,
yourself.
Especially, like, look, for me, I've had an experience, right? So it's very difficult for me to compartmentalize that experience in a separate part of my brain to accept information that you're giving me that says, whoa, maybe what I saw wasn't what I think it was. Maybe there's a more rational explanation to this. And that really conflicts. Like, that is so damn hard to do, to say, oh no, your eyes, your everybody around you, all of these people that saw the exact same thing are just mistaken. I just got it wrong. And then when they see a report that conflicts with that, that's not a belief, that's a knowledge, right? Like, they know it. And I can put on the table, I know it. But I think the difference between me and some of those folks, not a lot of those folks, the difference is that I know that I can't take my belief to a senator and put my knowledge even on a senator's desk, because they don't care. There's no paperwork. There's no way to verify it. How do you bring that up to someone's constituency? Like, there's so many reasons as to why. And the thing and when Richard Dolan was on the show, we had him. We specifically talked about the aviary and the Invisible College and this whole Davis papers and all these things. And at the end of the conversation, I said, okay, well, if you were going to put anything on the table in front of a congressman, what would it be? Not one of them said the Wilson Davis documents. And that's what we were talking about for 2 hours. Yeah. So if you can't put that in front of a senator, it's not that it's not good. The story is amazing. I mean, god damn, it's compelling. I think what I said that upset some people is I said it was a little woo-woo. And when I say that, maybe that's the wrong verbiage, and that's what me and Jay are going to talk about next week. Maybe I'm using the wrong verbiage. Maybe that's insulting for me to say it's too woo-woo, which I can sit back and I go, okay, well, maybe that's not the right way to call it or the right way to phrase it. But if I brought the Wilson Davis documents to my mother or my father or my uncle or my friends, they would go, what is this? Yeah. What am I looking at? Like, what are you saying? Somebody found this in an estate sale? Okay, like it wouldn't move the needle for them. And that's where I'm coming from. It's not that it's woo-woo, it's again, can you put it on the table in front of a senator?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that's not the evidence. My joke about the movie script before, which it kind of looked like nobody really caught that reference.
No, I missed it. Totally missed it.
No, that's okay. So
I meant
about
to ask
a year
you what
and
the hell that meant.
No, that really quickly is that's also part of the root of I think some of the hatred is because when that came out and I did a lot of research on it, I ended up doing a video kind of expose on it. Yeah. And what my intention was towards the end of the video was give a perfectly plausible, but not something I would bet my house on, but a perfectly plausible alternate theory on, okay, these maybe are real notes, but they don't depict a real event, but they could potentially be fiction, utilizing real people, weaving in, real places, events, and so on and so forth. And so I went through how those notes are structured like a very poorly written attempt at a script. Now, I worked in television for a long time as a producer, writer, director. Right. I got people writing essentially spec scripts and stuff all the time where they submit something to you. You guys work in television as well. So everybody kind of takes shots at writing scripts. When you look at this, I mean, right down to the scene setting and so on and so forth. So I pulled a script, just so happened that I had a script Groundhog Day, one of the original copies, and used that and showed roughly the same era when they were written. But the whole point was how it was structured, how it was written, how the scenes were set up, so on and so forth. Wow. Now, would I bet my house on it? No, but my whole point was there's just as much evidence to support that's a movie script than there is that's real event. And Dr. Admiral Wilson, patriot, military, he's got to be, he said he didn't there. He's a liar, all of a sudden they switch on a dime because he says he wasn't there. So, all that being said, there's just as much evidence to support that it would be based on real people, I mean, you guys work in television, that, based on a real story, but that doesn't mean the whole story is real. Right. And you can base it on it. So that was my whole movie thing. to them, I'll never live that down, but I stand by it because
Yeah.
it is a perfectly plausible alternate theory. And to dismiss it proves my point that you will just simply dismiss what you don't want to believe.
Right.
There are certain things that I have not dismissed myself that I don't want to believe when I deal with UFO related cases or specific cases or even non-UFO related, documents and pursuing a theory. There's certain things I don't want to believe, but if I can't rule things out, they're still on the list, and you have to separate your personal emotion to all of this in order to get to that truth. And with the Wilson Davis documents, sure, there's like 70,000 word essays on it. There's 75,000 hour videos, dissecting it. And that's great. You can take a fictionalized movie of an unrelated UFO event and dissect it and try and prove that it's real. And it may be based on a real story, but it doesn't mean the movie is real. And that was my entire point. So to automatically dismiss that and make fun of, me about it, which is fine, I think that shows the I want to believe syndrome and the fact that it's like my mind is made up. Don't bother me with anything else, and that's what's unfortunate. Sorry to go on the diatribe there, but I wanted
No. That's a good point
explain
because
the movie script.
Because you want to know something that also strikes me very similar to that. Because here's the thing, right? Let's say it is a script. Let's just say for a second it is. That's a hell of a resume notch right there, because you can take that script to any developer in Hollywood and you can say, you see that script right there? I caused complete pandemonium and chaos within the UFO community with that script right there.
Yeah.
And people bought it. They think it's real. That's a resume right there.
And okay,
Go for it.
I don't mean to step on you, but you're absolutely right. And years ago, there was a UFO video shot from a helicopter. I think it was around the World Trade Center before it fell.
I know exactly which video you're talking about. Yeah,
and it was used as a sci-fi trailer. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I got a resume when I was hiring for a show I was doing, I think for History, and I think it was the actress that played the pilot. And at the time, it was not out that was like a hoax video, and I was like, "What the hell? A pilot?" I think it was the pilot, so I don't want to. It was one of the people involved, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you were?" I thought that what? And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a sci-fi, sci-fi channel trailer or like a promo tease for the network." Yeah, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me, right?" Yeah, but that's exactly it. Those are the types of fictionalized work that end up in ufology, and they essentially are real. The other thing are CGI artists. You can create something and have it go viral, and that is the UFO community is going to hate you. Yep. But that doesn't matter. They're trying to get a job, and so they go, look, this had 37 million views on YouTube in a month. And they go, wow, look at that. It's really interesting. Yeah. And boom, you got a job. Yeah. So you nailed it there. I hated to interrupt you, but man, you're absolutely right.
You almost took the words out of my mouth with that in the CGI aspect of things, because I think of that Alien Bob video. That Alien Bob video is 100% CGI. I've been around a lot of Hollywood productions. I've seen a lot of CGI. That is CGI without a doubt, 1,000,000%. But I can tell you, I thought that was real for a long time. Yeah. And I could see easily, Jesus Christ, dude, you go to like Steven Spielberg or a huge production company and you take your laptop, you pop it on the desk, you turn it around, you go, click. This video has 50 million views, and almost every one of those views, people think it's real. Hire me as your CGI coordinator, and I will make sure that your movie looks just as good, if not better than this. Yep. And boom, you're hired on the spot. On the spot. You don't have to even turn in paper with a resume. You just show them that, and you're hired. Yep. So, it's a great point. Okay. Wow. I'm already.
You'll never look at the Wilson Davis document the same way. You may not believe it's a movie script, but you're going to look at it now.
Now I'm going to go back and look at it and go and take my movie script knowledge and apply it.
Challenge yourself. Yeah.
If it's not a movie script, it's a very weird way to take notes.
It is. Right.
Absolutely.
It is a weird way to take notes. Okay, so John, the reason why I asked you on today, man, we just went on for a half hour about all sorts of stuff. And real quick, we got John Greenwald here. 185, you guys share. like, subscribe, ring the bell, let everyone know that John Greenwald here is talking, and we're about to get into one of his articles. We've also
People are leave now. Don't advertise.
Yeah, everybody's gonna leave now. Jesus, John.
It's like, wow.
We've
Unsub,
got
unsub.
we've got
Unclick the
Daniel
bell.
Miller. We got Daniel Miller, who's an actor based out here in Los Angeles as well. The three of us should get together and have some brews one day, because we're both all three of us are pretty much in the LA area. And then we've got Rather Be Squidding, our lovely co-host and man of a million smiles, with his channel that focuses on cutting edge science and technology. And then of course we got Graeme Rendall, writer, photographer. He's got a new book coming out that he's working on now, UFOs Before Roswell, the contributor at the Debrief and UAP Media UK and Shadows of Your Mind magazine. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to check out the Patreon. Don't forget ways to support the channel. Again, we're a public access channel. We're here 5 days a week for you. So if you love the show, find a way to support. And if that's just liking the channel, God bless you. I brought you in today because, well, you had a lot of really fun articles this week, John. You've done a lot of great work. This one hit me today. We'd already touched on a couple of articles earlier in the week that you wrote, but this one was pretty cool. SpaceX false alarm encounter with unknown object, April 2021, the NASA documents. So let me bring this up so you guys can sort of see this with us. There we go. So essentially, from what I'm gathering here, is SpaceX, NASA launches a rocket. They get some warning that they may be on a collision course with something.
Correct.
And they even get into their suits, their space suits, just in case it gets hit. And then turns out, nope, nothing's gonna engage you guys. You're cool. And then when they look into what it was something from the Space Force that doesn't exist. So, what's going on here, John? Can you break this down for us as best you can?
Sure. So the reality that there was an unknown object, that's not breaking news. That was reported in April. A couple days after that, I know the New York Post, along with some others, got a statement that essentially it was a false alarm, and they felt that it wasn't even a real object, I think was part of the quote. But regardless, they pretty much just dismissed the whole thing. Well, I had already filed these Freedom of Information Act requests because you say unknown, I'm pretty much right there on it. So I want to know what's going on. So I got these documents that came back, and it reinforced the fact that there was quote unquote no object there, but essentially it gave more information. What I got was an internal use only PowerPoint presentation that was created after to figure out what went wrong, because this was a big deal. I mean, close encounters in space, UFO, quote unquote UFO or not, any type of near miss like that is a gigantic issue. They should know about everything that's up there, the cataloged items. They have huge databases of tens of thousands of pieces of space debris, so on and so forth. Well, this thing was an unknown. They had no idea what it was, hence, why they were calling it an unknown track. They were in such danger, they felt, that they had no time to say, let's correct the course. Let's turn, you fire an engine for half a second, you blow that thing off of the course it's on, and as long as you're not missing the space station, you'll be okay, or whatever, they needed to do. Well, they didn't have time for that. Got everybody in their suits, locked them down, and they were safe. It was obviously a near miss. Then they realized it wasn't real. Well, this PowerPoint presentation revealed that it was the Space Force and what they called an analyst sat, or analyst satellite. Now, what I can deduce from it, because that's actually somewhat new, I had really never heard of that. That doesn't mean much, but I had never heard that term before, so I had to kind of research it a little bit, didn't find much. But the documentation, you can kind of deduce that it is essentially something the Space Force does. It's probably like a track that they can put into a simulation or something for those types of purposes, figuring out what you're going to do. If you've got 3 astronauts up there and you've got 18 seconds to figure out what in the hell you're going to do to make sure these men and women survive, you got to act like that. And so they input these false phantom tracks in there and do their simulations. Well, this time they fed it back to NASA as a real track. And so they see these things on the screen going, oh my God, we're on a collision course. Astronauts go in their suits, so on and so forth. So it was kind of an interesting revelation to see the PowerPoint presentation. I got all of the messages and the breakdowns from the mission controller, the main guy in charge. I got all of that broken down. But one of the interesting finds was one of the NASA personnel. They were bantering back and forth. And what's interesting is there was actually more than one encounter on this. And a lot of people are referencing a video where you can see the Dragon capsule. And I'm pretty sure it was taken from the space station. And this object just flings right through the middle of them. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people think that this was. This was not that. That was something else. But if you read the emails that I got from NASA, that was referenced. They feel that was part of the Falcon 9 rocket. So there's a whole lot of debris that's going on out there when they, jettison things and do course corrections or whatever. So they feel that was just debris. Take that for what it's worth. So one of the emails, though, made reference to, and I'll read you the quick quote.
Yeah.
He says, we had a couple different things, so I want to make sure I'm addressing the correct one. It is hard to keep track of what is internal knowledge and what has made it out. That was a NASA guy. And for me, my ears perk up when I read that, because what are they hiding? And I'm not spinning that in any way. NASA's a very open agency, so that's not spin. What are they keeping about this? What are they keeping kind of secret, I guess, and internal versus what's leaked out? Now, of course, they're not going to give you the schematics to the space station, but where I'm going with this is something was going on to where this person's like, okay, there's public knowledge, but has this been out yet? Well, what's that? What is he talking about? Was there more? And whether that means UFO or not, I don't know. But it was really something that kind of perked me up a little bit. Like, hey, what are they speaking about?
Yeah, no, that's pretty wild. So, if you had to take a guess, what do you think we're dealing with here?
I can believe that it was a mistake. Okay. I do. I can believe that. I know that the wording is very interesting, that it's an object that does not exist or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to, I'm like, wait a second, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
This is wild.
Well, yeah, I think it sounds a little cooler than it is, but I think what was revealed here, and this is what you got to look for, is the story is obviously the SpaceX false alarm encounter. Not because I made it the story. That was what I was pursuing, and that was, again, that story. But these little side things, like this NASA personnel saying what's made it out and what's not. What does that mean? Like, how much is going on these missions that essentially they are keeping secret and not getting out to the public? And those are the types of things that I just love to pursue and try and figure out, okay, if you're keeping secrets, what are they? And then I'll have to try and figure it out.
What are we going to say, rather?
Well, I just feel the whole idea of, essentially tested data getting out there into live production NASA systems is something really alarming, right? Like, yeah. For one, can we trust data that will come out of NASA in the future that is actual real data? And then two, I could see something like this starting a war, right? Like if fake data gets into our national defense systems and we think that there's a missile coming at us, but it's really just some SpaceX or, Space Force fake data. I mean, it just seems like a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And that absolutely can happen where if there's no communication about certain launches or these phantom blips that are fed out there that create a massive emergency of hey, we need to get the astronauts in spacesuits. I'll tell you a really quick story. It wasn't a fake missile, by the way, though, but it was real. It was just an unknown one. And I forget what year. I think it was in the 90s. Sorry, I'm going a couple years back in my head, so I don't remember the exact year, but I can post the document out after the show. But long story short, it was Soviet Union at the time. The Soviets are looking out, and they're seeing a rocket launch. They see it on their systems, and they believe that it was being launched from a nuclear submarine from America. So it was a U.S. sub. They felt that they had the area that it was coming from, and essentially the countdown started to a nuclear war. They believed that this was an incoming ICBM. It went to, from the documentation, about 3 minutes to launch from the Soviet Union. They had everything fueled. And what happened was, at the last minute, almost literally, they realized that it was a weather satellite being launched from Norway, and no one called the Soviet Union and said, hey, by the way, we're launching, but, don't start World War III. No one said anything. my whole point with a story like that, because to me it's fascinating. I love that document. But my whole point with that is that's how quick and easy world wars can start just by a misunderstanding. So whether it's a phantom blip on a screen that's accidentally fed out, whether it's a real rocket launch and communication doesn't take place, this is a much more serious issue than we might think. And I think that the person that probably fed that out, if how we're reading this is how it took place, probably got in a little bit of trouble for making that type of a blunder.
Yeah, I would say so. It almost sounds like the script of that Stanley Kubrick film. Why am I forgetting the name of it?
Script?
Yeah,
Wilson Davis Diaries?
No. I was thinking of the that Stanley Kubrick film where it's all about the A-bomb and the miscommunication. Dr. Strangelove. Gosh,
Dr. Strangelove, yeah.
Yeah, and how to learn to love the bomb or something like that. It's such a fun movie. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. But here's something. What happened?
Sorry.
What do you got, Daniel? You good?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
My computer just screen went out for a second, but we're all good now.
It's all
I
good.
thought my computer died.
All good. Well,
Apologies for the S-bomb.
No, I didn't even hear it. I just heard shit,
Okay.
and then it was cut off. Okay, this is what I love about this channel. So we got this Warlock in here going. Luis, are you saying the famous Skinny Bob vid is CGI? And then Justin said he said that word for word, right? So then you could kind of see Warlock's sort of like somebody's like, "Uh-oh, he's stuck," and then Warlock says, "Yep." And then he says, this is really funny right here, hold on. And then he starts crying, right? Which I get it. I can understand if you're getting this information for the first time, it might bum you out. But here's what's great. April just backs him up. It's like, I'm here for you, buddy. You know, sorry, Warlock. Oh, God, what is going on with my camera? I don't know what's up, you guys. Hold on, let me just switch cameras real quick.
CIA.
There's some rumors in the chat that you're just doing this to change your shirt, Lou. So, that's dispelled.
I can promise you, it's definitely not. I don't know what's going on, but he so you know, she comes to his back like, hey, I'm here for you, buddy. We all went through the CGI thing. Still a little sad, and then he says, oh well, at least I've seen a real UAP during the 2020 Perseid meteor shower last August. And look, man, like, it's okay, like, it happens to everybody in this field, right? Where we all think that we get hung up on a piece of information or a video or something, and we build a belief system on it, and then somebody takes the rug out from that foundation, and then all of that system just comes crumbling down. Don't be sad. Don't be crying still. He's still crying. It's fine. Now he's laughing. I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions, Warlock. But yeah, just do yourself a favor. Go back, take a look at the video, and if you're looking real closely, you could definitely tell it's a CGI production, which is a bummer. It sucks. I wish we did have real footage of these aliens working on a computer system of some sort, or whatever the hell that thing is doing. But we're here for you, all right? And just because that's fake doesn't mean the phenomena is not real. You know, it doesn't mean that everything goes out with the Skinny Bob video. You know, so thanks for hanging in there. We're here for you, buddy. If you have any other questions or another shoulder to lean on, cry into, we are all here for you. So just wanted to point that out real quick.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Talking about pulling the rug from under people's feet. John, 17 pages.
That's another story people love me.
Please, John, share the 17 pages.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
You were the only person to actually go and get a figure from the US government. Nobody else got a figure. And then you were getting criticized, but you were the only person ever to get a figure about how long that report was. Right. And that was the amazing thing. So nobody should criticize you over that. Because, nobody else even tried.
That doesn't stop anybody, though.
No, that's definitely not going to stop anybody. But real quick, before you say something, John, I did want to get your take, though. What's your response? Because I don't know if I might have probably missed this. You probably did have a response to it. But I know Lou Elizondo came out. I think it was Lou Elizondo. I could be wrong. Came out and said something along the lines of the report is more, I think somebody helped me here, but around 90 pages.
So Luis Elizondo's hovering around 73 to 74, depending upon if he counts the cover page.
Right. So what was your
his attorney, Danny Sheehan, says 400.
Yeah, it is. His attorney says something completely different.
Yeah.
But
Just a small difference.
Yeah, just a little difference. But what do you think to that response? Because I know it was a rebuttal directly to you, because you had come out, you laid everything out on the table. This is why I think this is it's 17 pages. Here it is. Here are the facts.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just putting this out here. You guys can take it for whatever you want. But it did seem like Lou had a response to it. So what is your rebuttal to that?
Sure. Yeah. It's not a direct rebuttal per se, but rather a response that says, look, my case is a legal case made under the Code of Federal Regulations that is not the FOIA. The FOIA operates a little bit differently than the federal regulations that I'm using. In short, it allowed me to create a case on Saturday morning, the Friday after it was handed over to Congress, to essentially mandate that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence review the document for potential declassification. Didn't matter it was 12 hours old or not. It was mandated to be done.
Right.
The case was for what actually was physically handed over to Congress. That has now progressed. So I'm speeding up the story because I don't want to take over your show here. But and I feel like I'm blabbling, and you've got great guests
John,
along with me here.
I asked you a question.
I know, but
dude,
I feel bad.
Look, man. Don't feel bad, Greenwald.
I do. Okay.
You are the man with the most knowledge in this room. You've done all of the work. No. We do not mind if you have long-winded answers that provide nuance, descriptions, details, and reasoning. As look, man, these answers can't be fed in a one-sentence thing. So don't feel bad about this.
Well,
we asked you here for a reason, and we know you like details.
We know
so
I like
detail it up,
long-winded
baby.
everything. Yeah. So the case progressed, and where it got to was, in this order, case number issued. Then it became processing. Then I got an update that the document was in hand. Then what happens is that in those pages, at this point I didn't know the amount. In those pages, though, there's essentially material that's outside of ODNI's responsibility. Mm-hmm. In essence, those are called OCAs, or the original classifying authorities. So let's say the Air Force gives a case or two, and that's outlined in there. Those details essentially have to be reviewed by the U.S. Air Force. They're the OCA. The Navy, same deal. So they got to farm that out. Well, there's like 14 agencies or whatever it is listed on that first page. So that's a lot of coordination. But through that next week, I had confirmation that was taking place. Fast forward, then I tried to get through the spokespeople a page count, and they would not comment on it because as it stands, even as we talk now, but even then, as it stood, it's a classified document. So spokespeople are limited to what they can say without a proper review. However, my case manager at the office within ODNI, I posed the same question to her. And it got to the point where she answered it. And so I thought, well, that's awesome. So I immediately wrote back. I said, okay, I want to make sure this is all encompassing. I want to make sure that this is everything, this, that, and the other thing. Well, after multiple conversations, because anybody who knows me knows I triple and quadruple check. Yes, it was 17 pages that went over. Yes, that includes everything. I never stipulated an executive summary, but people rebutted and said, well, that's just the summary. No, that's everything. What I couldn't get confirmation on was their actual media that was handed over also. So i.e. a DVD that was handed over with 12,000 hours worth of videos. But 17 written pages on the report handed over. Going back to your question with Luis Elizondo, where he says there's 70 plus pages. And there was a lot of hatred that was spewed when I came out with this story, like I was endorsing what ODNI said. Mm-hmm. Me reporting on something isn't an endorsement, but rather I'm just saying, look, this is it. And it was attributable, meaning it was named. The agency letterhead was the first attribution, but then I got permission to share who gave me that statement. So it was all attributable. Everything is tracked, everything is documented, and it ties into a legal case. So my response to those who are coming back at me saying that's not true, I'm all ears if there's evidence that I can use in this case to appeal. If they come back to me when the case is finalized and they go, oops, sorry, it wasn't 17 pages, it was 74, here you go. Okay, great. Well, I have a paper trail that said they said 17. Yeah. I highly doubt that will happen. I really do. I believe that it was handed over to Congress in the way that they said it, simply because I don't think Congress would care to get a 70-plus page report. So my theory / speculation, and it's nothing more than that, is Mr. Elizondo could absolutely have heard, and maybe there was a report that was 74 pages. It's quite possible the UAPTF drafted a 70-plus page report. Maybe that's who he's either coordinating with, talking to, communicating with, has buddies there. I don't know. But whatever the story is, that 70-plus page report gets over to ODNI. If you look at the first page of the report, it was drafted by UAPTF and somebody from ODNI, not just UAPTF. What that potentially means, and I'm stressing speculation here, potentially means is they get the 70-plus page as a starter. This guy at ODNI goes, oh, yeah, no, they won't care. Edit, 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 and it comes down to 17 pages. Perfectly plausible and logical. That way Mr. Elizondo is right. It's just not what was handed over to Congress. So I had reached out to Mr. Elizondo that week for 2 different stories. He was unable to comment. It's not my position to say why, but regardless, he was unable to do so. So I said, okay, no problem. He has, I think they've posted this on Twitter, so hopefully I'm not blowing anything, but he works with some media people that do things for him. And I initiated, hey, give me some more information. Publicly, they said that I would receive a statement. So that's why I'm saying this. And yes, I did, but it posed more questions than answers. So it was agreed that I don't publish it because I would have to lean in and say, look, there's a blaring problem here. So I'm not trying to be secret. It's just respectful that that part was posted publicly, because I did get ridiculed. Well, why didn't you ask, Mr. Elizondo? Well, I'm here to tell you I did. He just wasn't available to comment, and I've been waiting respectfully to publish anything that he wants to give me. But the bottom line is it needs evidence. That's it. And evidence is absolute key. So he could absolutely still be right. And that's what I've tried to stress to people. My case, the 17 pages of what was physically handed over to Congress, if Mr. Elizondo or anybody else wants to maintain that what was physically handed over was 70-plus pages, I'm all ears. I've contacted Marco Rubio. No response yet. I wanted confirmation from his office as kind of a after my quadruple check. What is that? Whatever check that would be. Quintuple check, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. So, but I did reach out to his office, talk to one of his spokespeople, but never got a response. And that was expected. I don't think that a senator would make a comment on a currently classified document, because again, it's the same reason spokespeople within that agency won't. It needs a proper review. But since my case was open, that's why that particular person, her name's Sally Nicholson, was able to put it in writing, make it attributable, and that's what I published. So anyway, there's my long-winded answer.
No, dude, that was a great long-winded answer. I love it. Could it be as simple as, hey, the preliminary report's 17 pages, but the main report, the one that hasn't been, because from what I understand, this preliminary report is one of many to come, or at least one of 2, I would assume. With a preliminary report, I'm in the assumption of that means we're going to get another report. So could it be that these, 60-something pages or 50-something pages could just be part of the next thing coming down the pipe?
Yeah, also I want to add there were reports of 21 other reports mentioned in that report.
This is a great question. Yeah. Because I just got to put rather on the big screen here, because he made a wonderful point the other day. And please, because we wanted to ask you this. So yeah, go for it.
Sure. Yeah, and 21 reports times about 17 pages report would add up to about 400 total pages. So that could potentially match Sheehan's math.
Yeah, the only where I respectfully disagree with that is I don't think that they would put the actual reports in the congressional delivery. Right. Where, and this is just a guess, it was long bantered about a 400-page report made through OSAP with the DIA and their original reporting. I think it was New York Times that originally wrote about that. And I've had a request in for that for years now, as have quite a few other people. So in my opinion, maybe he got fumbled upstairs a little bit when he was talking about it. I do it all the time, so I'm not picking on him. I have those moments where, there's a lot of numbers floating around, and there's a lot of, statistics and stuff like that. So I personally don't think that they would put in a 400-page preliminary assessment to the Senate. What comes next, would that be closer to 70? Possible. And this is one of those knock the ice cream off the ice cream cone moments.
Yeah.
Nothing indicates that will be public. And the only public thing that we got, it was because it was a congressional mandate. I think it was technically not even a mandate, but regardless, it was mandated that they do a public version and then potentially a classified annex. They had the option to do that. Well, they did, obviously. That's what I'm going for. They say they're going to update Congress in 90 days from that point. So we got a couple months to go.
Right.
So with all of that said, will that be public? And a lot of people are excited, like, yeah, what are we going to learn? Well, we may not learn anything, to be honest with you, or we may not see anything and learn very little, where they say, well, they've initiated their changes or their, whatever it might be. But, sorry, we're not going to be releasing anything else. I won't be surprised if that happens. They fulfilled their public obligation, and now they just have to deal with the lawmakers. And as history has long proven, we generally don't get what we want from the lawmakers.
All right. Well,
and a lot of these data points are from sensor collection systems that we are not allowed to know about. Right. So why would we think we're going to get information about it?
That's right. And that is, I'm glad you brought that up, Daniel, that is the reason why ODNI says that the classified portions are classified. They cite sources and methods.
Right. Well, I mean, it just seems to me, I mean, maybe I'm crazy about this, John, but I feel like I don't think the government has any concern about telling you what the result of this is, but they have a problem telling you how the math, showing you the math. Like, they'll show you the answer to the math problem.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a problem going, okay, this thing's real. Okay, aliens are real, or this is what's going on. But they don't want to show you the math work to how they got to that conclusion. Because if they give you the conclusion, then they got to show you the work to how they got there. Because if they give John Greenwald the conclusion, John Greenwald is going to do everything in his power to go, okay, show me the work. Where's the math? Let me see the work. And if they can't provide that, it's going to be a really hard pill to swallow, short of bringing out a piece of, material or technology that says, okay, look, here it is. We can't tell you how it works. We can't tell you this. We can't tell you that, how we got it, all this. But just know this is real and here it is. I don't see that happening either because, again, if they did that, they would have to show you the math. They would have to show you the work to do it. And if they didn't want to show it, there were going to be people who are going to dive into every nook and cranny of our intelligence gathering systems to find it. And I think that's why there's this holdup. I mean, I guess this is a pure speculation question, but do you think at the end of these FOIA requests, John, we're going to get, and I don't even know if you've got a retirement date somewhere in your head, like a number in your head. But when you submit your last FOIA request, do you think we're ever going to get? I mean, I know in the last 4 or 5 years here, I feel like we're winning. We're winning on this topic, and that's why I'm doing the Big Phone Home too. And by the way, you're invited if you'd like to join us. Don't feel pressure to answer now. But we're going to be calling Congress for 3 days. We're going to be asking for congressional hearings. That's really like focus number one. Is there anything? I guess this is a 2-part question, but what do you think is going to be at the end of this FOIA request rainbow? And do you think, we're going to get any, do you think, I guess the second part question is, what else should we be asking for when we call Congress other than congressional hearings? Could you add anything on there that maybe you think is a good idea that people should be asking for when dealing with their local or state representative?
Those are heavy questions. The first part, I would say what's at the end, it really is depending on what you're focusing on. For me, when it comes to this report and trying to get the classified report, I'll throw something out there really quickly, just food for thought for you guys. I did a video and went into much more in depth, but in short, where I don't know the answer is when that classified report hopefully comes in, likely in part, will it reveal that there were more than 144 cases? And a lot of people have not posed that question, and I will, with the NASA classified briefing that I got the DOD to say no comment on, but essentially expand a little bit, confirming that it did take place and in a classified setting. And so where I'm going with this is NASA was not in the public version list of agencies that they coordinated with. But that was only if you look at the wording of their statement based on who contributed to that report or that preliminary assessment. What about the classified version with 17 pages? Did they go to the space realm and start looking at phenomena there? And that's what I want to see. So there's a lot of unwritten chapters to this saga where I don't know what the end is. I do not believe the wall of secrecy is coming down. I don't believe the veil is lifting. I don't believe it's disclosure. I believe that they have put the wall up themselves, and it's there to stay. But I'm just looking for the cracks to see what we can actually get.
So you don't think we're going to have like a Ronald Reagan moment on East and West Berlin on the wall going, tear this wall down? You don't think? I mean, do you think if we ever get a president, you think we'll ever get a president?
Home, don't they?
Yeah, right. No, but I'm saying that's a good. Thank you, John. That's a nice plug.
You're very welcome.
But what I was going to say is, do you think we'll have a president that has that kind of moment of we need to bring this wall of secrecy down?
No.
Wow.
And there's two reasons why. I believe that presidents will not be read in.
Right.
I believe that they will be kept in the dark. And I believe that is, I don't do the whole shadow government thing, but when I look and approach secrets, when you talk about massive cover-ups like this, in large part, they're in perpetuity. That they will last for a long time. You can find the cracks. I look for all of them, see what we can find. But I'll give you a prime example. President Trump, one of the biggest, love him, hate him, doesn't matter. President Trump goes in and he says, declassify all of JFK's files.
Right.
He tweets it out. There's his executive order in tweet form. And they start reviewing all this stuff. The end of the story is that despite a sitting presidential order and desire and want, it didn't happen.
Right.
So if you follow the story, there are still thousands of pages that are still classified on the JFK assassination. And when they went back to the president and said, look, we can't declassify these, here's why, Trump agreed. He was the guy that was saying, just declassify everything, put it out there. And when push came to shove, he goes, no, they're right, we should keep the secret. And so they pushed the ball down the field. And so that we still got a lot of stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff that we didn't get. My whole point with that, it does not matter if you are a sitting president of the United States. Secrecy will trump, pardon the pun, everything. Yeah. Everything.
Well, here's the thing,
and it just doesn't matter.
Here's the thing, because I've heard that argument. And by the way, Rich, I'm going to get to your question. It's going to be the last question we asked John, and it's a fun question, which I know he's not going to have an answer to, but I'm going to ask him anyway. But like this idea, like Guantanamo Bay, right? We can't close Guantanamo Bay. We can't close it. I was just like, what is stopping a president, if he had any real moxie, on a flight to, say, Miami, if they take off and he goes up to the cockpit and he goes, I'd like to go to Guantanamo Bay, please land there now. Who's going to question that? Who's going to say to the president, no, sorry, we can't. I'm ordering you as the president of the United States, the pilot right now, go land at Guantanamo Bay. Go land at Area 51 on our way to L.A. Who's going to say no in that moment to the president of the United States?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think they would if that were to come up. Right. I do believe that they would go. Telling people what they see is something else. And I do believe, and this sounds conspiratorial, but I think history really bears this out, that presidents will want to do certain things, but when they get into office, they just can't.
Right.
A lot of times that's labeled as campaign broken promises and this and that, but I think then at that point, they realize they're not in full control. They have to adhere to the secrecy layers that have been there for decades upon decades, whether it be with the JFK assassination, whether it be with the whatever you want to call it, interrogations in Guantanamo, and housing of those types of prisoners, so on and so forth. The list goes on. So as a candidate, you can say whatever you want. You get in there, then you start seeing those extra onion layers of secrecy, some of which I don't think they will ever see. They will see enough to just say, okay, fine, we have to not give the JFK assassination secrets away. Why not? What is it? And that's what intrigues me about the Trump thing, because he was such a you-know-what stirrer in Washington, and him of all people, I would think, would just say, do it. Get it
yeah.
out there. Who cares? Let's take the black eye and run.
The best
but
explanation I've heard is that some of the people that are involved in, whether we want to call it a cover-up or whatever, are still alive. And so, you know, if these people are still alive and they've helped do something that is insanely nefarious, like, I don't know, maybe help get the president of the United States assassinated, but he was doing it under orders from so-and-so and so-and-so, you know, but that person is still in a walker somewhere in a retirement home.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be a mess. So I think that's at least that's the best explanation I've heard, is like, okay, well, let's just put the story out, and once everybody's dead and gone, then we can maybe start giving some truth. But I don't even know if it's going to happen then.
No, because they can easily tell you the story and keep the names, or, you know, tell you enough of the story and keep the names if they were to come out that way. There was a rumor for a long time that they were waiting for Jackie to die. And then she passes away and nothing happens, nothing changes. So it was essentially just kind of moving the goalposts, like, this has to happen and then we'll do it. Oh, no, this has to happen, then we'll do it. And it just keeps going down the line. But the President Trump thing told me more about government secrecy than just the JFK assassination. It told me the true power, or the lack thereof, of a sitting United States president. And that's where I say, and it reinforces a belief I've had for a long time, that presidents aren't going to know the entire truth, whether it be about JFK, UFOs, whatever it might be. Then the question is, who does? You know, who are those people? So again, I don't do the whole shadow government conspiracy and go down that dark route, but rather the reality that there are extra layers of this secrecy, and those secrets are kept heavily guarded until, you know, whatever prerequisite has to be met for them to declassify it. But regardless, it really shows you that the president is not 100% in charge as we think he is.
Yeah. You know what I've always wanted to happen? Remember in that movie, The Rock, Sean Connery is like this ultra prisoner, and the only reason why he's in prison is because he's got this microfiche that's got all of the secrets, you know, where the aliens are buried, who killed JFK, and he put the microfiche in some church in the middle of the desert, and then at the end of the movie they find the microfiche, and he's like, hey, you want to learn who killed the president? And then the movie cuts out. I was like, oh my god, that is a great ending.
Yeah, that's a great
so
movie.
Last question for John, and then we're gonna get you out of here. What about the videos, John? Where are the videos, John? Where are they?
Which videos? Are we talking about the 23-minute video?
I think, well, that's a good one. Any video, man. I think this guy's asking where, just anything. Anything that we just haven't, that's outside of our purview of what we've already seen. People are dying for videos. People are dying for photos.
Yeah.
Even though I think, in my opinion, and I'm sure you'll probably back me up on this, they're the worst things for evidence or photos and videos. But I mean, what do you got to say to Rich's question? What about the videos, John?
So, and I'm not trying to tease anything here, but to properly answer the question, you know, before the report was issued, I had set in motion numerous cases to get visuals and media, both at the unclassified level and above. And so there are numerous cases that I had filed prior to the report being published, because I just operated off the assumption they were there. And then once the report was issued, I forget what show I first set it on, but it is true. It's now over 50 cases that I've filed based on those 9 pages. And so, and that sounds outrageous, but that's not an exaggeration. There was over 50 cases that I had filed seeking out data, communications, videos, photographs, and so on. So that's in the works. I don't have an end result for you, so I'm not trying to leave this open-ended and tease you with something. Right. I just don't have anything to say, this is where we're ending up. I do have acknowledgement that all the cases are being processed, case numbers throughout, and I'm seeing what I can come up with. The ones at an unclassified level, some may think, no, it's all classified. Keep in mind the gimbal, the FLIR, and the GoFast were all considered unclassified from the get-go. Right. And I had that in writing from the Navy a couple years ago. My whole point there is that for whatever reason, these UAP images, albeit they're not great, but if you can get some context with them, that makes them more interesting. But they all are seemingly unclassified. I never got confirmation that all of the other, like Jeremy Corbell leaks, were unclassified. They wouldn't go there. They also wouldn't give me the designation. But the fact they commented on them, I'll take a stab in the dark and say they are unclassified. So the question mark is why? Why is it? So I think that there's a good chance that some visuals will come out of these cases. If it's anything like the official release of the gimbal, FLIR, and Go Fast, I think the Navy or whomever will preemptively do it before my case finishes. That's what happened with the 3 videos that they released, and I have a whole paper trail going back 2 years on a case that led to the Navy officially releasing the videos, and then my FOIA case was answered and closed about an hour later.
Wow.
And so they made it seem like, we are in the interest of transparency.
No.
But rather, I had them in a conundrum with that unclassified statement. There was no legal way they could get out of it. So I think they preemptively just said, okay, do a press release, send them out, and then like literally 60 minutes later, I get the case closed. Here's your final. Oh, we posted them online. It's like, really? Come on.
Man.
So it's a very interesting tactic.
Dirty. I call it a dirty tactic, John.
Dirty tactic. But there's strategy here. And there's a lot of strategy, not only with the way they talk to the public, but also from a counterintelligence standpoint. And I know you're probably past your time, so I won't go into a full other hour diatribe, but
no,
it's fascinating. It really is. The game is afoot.
The game is definitely afoot. Rather, you said we had one more question from a super chat, do we?
Yeah, G West here.
Okay, well, all right. So Melon, sorry, John, to keep you for one more question here.
No, it's okay.
Melon has said before people should start looking into the DOE. Does John have any open FOIAs? Yes. I'm going to answer that question. Yes, concerning the DOE. Sorry if this has been asked.
1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2, right?
DOE is obviously when Christopher Mellon put that out there has been a common question. Of course, I have records requests with DOE, absolutely. Still open. UFO related, I'll have to double check. I think maybe 1 or 2, but nothing of like, real strategically targeted. I think I'm going to get some gold from it. My bigger general reaction to hiding things in a certain agency, I'm here to tell you that every agency can keep secrets, equally as good. And so I don't think that there's any one particular reason for them to say, okay, if we want to hide it, put it into DOE. And I think a lot of people think that would be, essentially what they're doing. And for me, I'm here to tell you every agency has their secrets. And I mean, I get blacked out documents from the post office, and I'm not kidding. So, you want to keep a secret, you absolutely can. And there's nothing that you can do to change that. You can fight, you can pull a legal tantrum if you want. It doesn't really matter. You can kick, scream, and throw things. But at the end of the day, if they want to keep the secret, they absolutely can, and they will. So hiding it in DOE, I'm not on that train. I think DOE is interesting and will have a lot of extra layers of secrecy in itself, but I don't think it's going to be all that much different than all the other agencies. If they want to keep it, they'll do it.
Interesting. See, I think I might differ from you a little bit on this, because I feel like if there's one department like that I had to put my money on that has this kind of stuff, I mean, I'm sure there are other departments, but it probably sits in just private hands. But if there was public entity, the DOE really intrigues the hell out of me. Just because that's where all of our patents are. For all of our toys are in the DOE. So I just, it's a fun thing to think about, but until we've got the paper trail, until we've got the proof, it's just speculation.
Yeah, Navy's got some cool patents too.
Oh, I'm sure they do. And I'd like to see what kind of patents the new Space Force is working on, because I'm sure there's a couple interesting ones in there as well. All right, Mr. Greenwald. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, man, and you stuck around a lot longer than I thought you were gonna. But I appreciate you being here. And by the way, that's not an insult. You can stay around as long as you want, whenever you want.
Wouldn't leave that Greenwald.
Long-winded answers are welcome here, sir.
Next time, pull the mic.
No, never. The people love you, dude. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go, because I know you got some kids to get back to and stuff to do.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I'm sorry I didn't want to take over keep being long-winded, but thank
I think
you.
everybody here loves that.
Thank you, John.
I love
Yeah,
that.
this is awesome.
You
Thank
made
you for
you
talking.
made our last hour a hell of a lot easier. We were going to talk about Bill Nelson and the Galileo project that Avi Love was talking about. Boring
sounds
compared to
interesting.
getting John Greenwald here. No, it's not boring. It's actually pretty cool. We may sprinkle on it for a hot second, but I want to show everybody our new poster for the big phone home. So we're going to get into that right
Awesome.
now, and we're going to say goodbye to Mr. Greenwald.
And
I
thank you
appreciate
guys
you being
again.
here. Dude,
Absolutely, anytime.
The thanks is all from here, my friend. Thank you again. All right, you guys. That was John. Oh, there. Wait, John's back in. John's out. No, there we go. All right. All right, you guys. So, Graeme, sorry if I kept you a little longer. I know it's getting late over there. So I'm going to let you go. Yeah. All right, sir. Real quick before you go, please tell everybody where they can find your stuff and sell your book. I love the mug that you got right there, by the way. With the,
yes.
show everybody.
yeah.
I'll always plug Signal stuff. Go check out the Signal.
Dan's a great guy, so have a look at the Signal. One of my colleagues at UAP Media.
How good of a guy he is. He's been personally messaging my girlfriend for days now. Dude is
he's
just
good
a beautiful
like that.
man. He's a good person. But please share with the people.
Borders 750, my Twitter handle. There's a link tree on there, so everything I've written and the people I'm involved with at UAP Media UK, you can find through that. A shout out to everybody at UAP Media and also to Dave at Shadows of Your Mind magazine. Please have a look at the magazine, not just for the Calvine article, but for everything else that's in there. There's a whole lot of great stuff, and just have a look at it every time it comes out. And if you actually subscribe, if you actually do follow Shadows on Twitter, then you'll see every announcement that's made for each new magazine. So
It's
that's
a
great.
free magazine. It's a magazine.
It's
I believe
free.
Christopher Mellon has tweeted out as well articles from this magazine, if I'm not mistaken.
That's possible, yeah.
I think
possible.
he did. I could be wrong, but I thought he did. But either way, there's a
It's
lot of
worth a
great
read.
work. A lot of great work going on there, and we'll include that link in the description below as well. All
you
right,
very
Mr.
much.
Graeme Rendall, I appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you soon, sir.
Okay, take care, and hopefully Michelle's going to be on the mend as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Daniel
And
Miller.
then there were three.
Then there were three. Mr. Miller, please
Yes.
do me a favor. Tell everyone where they can find your stuff and say hello to you or ask you out on a date. Either one.
Yes, sir. Well, right
There you
there
go.
on Twitter, you can find me, DM me, talk to me. I love having conversations with everyone about this stuff. As you can tell, I'm super into it. And that's it. I do have a girlfriend, so sorry you kept asking on a date. Probably wouldn't work out, but
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. PSYOP is taken. All right, my dude. Well, we'll see you soon. I loved having you on the show, and
love you back.
And we'll get you on here very, very soon.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good
buddy.
day.
You too.
Yeah.
All right, Squidding. You ready for the reveal of the big phone home poster? Let's check out the poll. And by the way, the poster is it's a sneak peek. It's not 100% done, but it's a damn good representation of what it's going to look like. So the poll says, and we had 145 votes. Sneak peek for the Big Phone Home 2 poster. Yes, no, please stop. So we got 72% of the vote said yes, 15% said no, and 13% said please stop. So close to 30% of you want nothing to do with this new Big Phone Home poster, which is hilarious. I love it. Okay, so here we go. Let's bring this up for you guys. I'm gonna blow this up real quick here because I don't want to give away too many messages. So let's do this. So this is the first image, you guys, for the new Big Phone Home. Here we go. That is going to be one of the posters for the Big Phone Home. We're going to have our names up here at the top. Right now, it's just filled with a
lot of names.
A bunch of garble. Well, there's no real names in there yet. It's just a bunch of garble right now. But that's where the names will go. And then obviously here's the description of the event, the days, all of that stuff. All the details will be here at the bottom. But yeah, this is basically it, you guys. Let me know what you think. Is it cool? Is it lame? Do you love it? I love it. I think it's cool. Rather, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very cool. I love it. You know, it's an amazing design. Whoever you got working on this, thumbs way up.
Oh my gosh, we had an insanely great graphic designer, but also our producer Alex Garcia had a lot of help, put a lot of help and work into these. So I want to give a shout out to him. And then this is also, we got 2 posters. So this is the second one. And yeah, this is basically the vibe, you guys. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be doing a 3-day show. We're going to be doing 2 days here on the Unidentified Celebrity Review. We're going to do the second day on the Singularity Lab to spread the love. And yeah, man, it's going to be a fun weekend. So you got another clue there. This is going to be cool. It's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. And then I also got a couple of pictures, just in case you guys didn't know. Jeremy Corbell, while we were doing our shows, said, "Something wicked this way comes. Hashtag UFO, hashtag UFO truth, hashtag UFO transparency." And then he's sitting here in front of CNN in LA. That's in Los Angeles, right on Wilshire Boulevard. And then he's in a studio with a little bit, and apparently a fog machine. I don't know what's going on with the smoky picture there, but I dig it, dude. I can't wait to see. Look, man, people can hate this guy all they want. I love this dude. All right, I've gone from the complete opposite spectrum to completely loving this guy. Like,
he is the best alien hype man you could want.
You could ever want. Like, you want this guy in your corner. I mean, he's going to be there on the forefront when new information does come out. Where's our music, rather? What happened to our music?
I think you took it over by putting.
I did. Sorry. Okay. Well, here, let me show you another. Look at him. Look at Mr. Corbell here, dude. I would not mess with this guy. If I saw this dude in an alley, I'd be terrified.
Yeah, you know, if he doesn't attack you, he's got his alien buddies who will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, rather be squidding. I appreciate you helping me this week while in the absence of Michael and all of the craziness that's happened. You've been an absolute gem, sir. Cornerstone to the show. So thank you so much, dude. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, anytime we're here for you. And I love being here. This is an amazing show you started.
Man, it was fun today, right? It was fun.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking starting it off, but I
got to go back and watch how you did because I didn't get to hear it. I was helping my lady do some stuff.
You make it look easy, Lou.
Oh, well, thank you, rather. It's I guess it is a lot harder than it looks, but it's really not that hard once you just relax and you start, saying to yourself, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen all the time. All right, you guys, we went 20 minutes over today. I hope you enjoyed the extra show. I hope you enjoyed the review of the new Big Phone home posters. I hope you enjoyed our interview with John Greenwald. We were not planning that. Just happened. He was available today. He was able to stop in for a lot longer than I thought. Loved having Graeme Rendall here talking about the Calvine Incident. We got a lot of great stuff today. It was a lot of fun. I loved being here. I'm so grateful that all you guys were able to join us. We had pretty much 200 people in here for the whole hour. So thank you all for sharing, subscribing, liking, ringing the bell. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the Patreon support. If you don't know where those links are, just look right below the video. You'll find all the links to support the show. Again, we're a public access channel. We're supported by folks like you, and it's working. The show gets better every single time we do it because of your support. So seriously, thank you all out there. Next week, we've got Daniel Otis definitely coming in on Friday. We got to reschedule Jay from Project Unity. He's going to be back here as well. And we got Michael back. So Singularity Lab, Unidentified Celebrity Review. Both shows will be in full effect next week. Can't wait to see you then. Until next time, thank you so much for coming aboard and getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. That is Rather Be Squidding. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Peace.